This meeting to order pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 and as amended as of March 28, 2025. This meeting will be conducted in person and as a courtesy by remote means in accordance with applicable law. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public and board members, the meeting/hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless required by law. This meeting will be recorded by the local scene. Members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so by viewing Duxbury government access channels, which are Verizon 39 and Comcast 9. Viewers can visit the localscene.media/Duxbury for information about Duxbury programming, including streaming and watching replays on Duxbury YouTube. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next is open forum. Anything from the board? Starting with Mike.
No, thank you very much.
All right.
I was thinking there. You got a big night ahead of us.
All right.
No, I have nothing.
I'm good.
Anything down here? Okay, great. I don't have anything this evening. Anything from the public? These are matters that otherwise are not going to be addressed this evening on the agenda, things you want to alert us to, things we want on a future agenda, that sort of thing. I know we're going to have discussions on a number of warrant article items and ballot items tonight, and we'll get to those. Is there anything for open forum here in the room? Do we have anything online? Okay, great. So we'll move to our first order of new business, which is discussion and possible vote pertaining to the request to reconstruct the staircase leading from a yet-to-be-constructed deck adjacent to the seawall located at 31 Ocean Road North. This will be presented by our Director of Municipal Services, Jim Wozlewski, and Reggie Newcomb. Mr. Wozlewski.
Good evening. Jim Wozlewski, Building Commissioner here in town. So this is the first one of these examples that is in front of you, and there are others that will probably follow. Essentially what's going on is they're reconstructing a pre-existing non-conforming deck that exists now where the stairs encroach into this easement, which was done by a taking when they rebuilt the seawall. So they just want to replace what is, but because that easement exists, the easement says that anything that's placed in that easement, whether it be permanent, temporary, any structure has to have town approval, which I believe is the select board, which is why they're here. It's really simple. This particular project, it's about 2 steps that actually encroach into that setback. My only suggestion would be that it's possible to create the stairs so that they could be easily removed if they needed to access that, if you were to consider that.
Questions from the board?
I don't have a picture in front of me here. Could you kind of describe what was there and as best you can? I can picture it, but
Yeah, it's a bit of a trapezoid lot that kind of goes to a point. There's a house existing. Let's say, I don't know the exact dimensions. It's a square deck with 2 stairs that go down towards the seawall. It's still roughly 15 feet off the seawall.
so this is a staircase to the seawall, not a staircase off the seawall.
No, this is a staircase off the
Off the
deck
deck.
that is connected to the house.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
That's fine. It's in the easement.
it's located, yeah. 2 of the steps of the 4 steps that are proposed for this are in that easement location.
That's fine.
They exist that way now, but the easement didn't exist prior to the taking, so now they want to replace it, so it requires your approval.
So it's within the easement, but it's still on their property. It's just that we have an easement over their property.
Correct.
Okay. That's fine.
Is there anything proposed to be on or touching the wall itself?
No.
Okay, within the easement area that we're talking about, will these stairs interfere with any use or occupancy of the town, any future maintenance, any sort of future rights that we might need to exercise where the stairs would be in the way?
That's a good question, and it's highly subjective based on whatever that might be, because the easement is essentially a maintenance easement to maintain the seawall. It's a brand-new seawall. How long is that going to be down the road? I don't know the answer to that, where they need to start maintaining it, but You know, that's why I would suggest that this thing should be a removable set of stairs in case that ever happened. Who knows when? I don't anticipate it anytime soon, but we never know.
Are there other decks or structures similarly situated on any other properties adjacent to the seawall?
Yes.
Because if we allow one, we're gonna have to allow them all. We can't
It
deny,
could-
we can't say yes to this one and at some future application say, no, you can't. So we're either okay with all of them or we're not okay with any of them.
Yeah, I mean, every one of them encroaches a little bit differently. You know, there's been a history down there where they've had a lot of, something we don't regulate, which were just patios, low things, 3x3 squares, a bunch of different things that over the years was just known that, yeah, all right, that's okay to do. Not anyone ever gave them permission to do it that I know of, but it was just the culture down there that it's not really a structure that we regulate and it can be easily removed. Well, now with this taking, the language basically says in it is that anything, temporary, permanent, whatever, needs approval from you guys, folks. So people have had these for a long time, and now they're gonna be looking to replace those. Some of them have. I have one now that I have enforcement on that, you know, was an illegal deck that was built there. They have an order to remove it. That will be forthcoming with some legal matters soon, but. So yeah, it's a real problem down there that, you know, because there's multiple regulating authorities. You got conservation, you've got myself and the DPW with the easement and what they need for access to that, and then you folks to approve or deny whatever might be in that easement.
But Jim, maybe if we have an easement and we need access to it, whatever there, we can
You can just,
chuck it over, right?
they can go down with a bulldozer and
Bulldozer
tear that
and
stuff
then-
over, and the people that have this stuff are aware that that's a possibility. The
Right.
ones that I've spoken
So
to that have stuff.
it doesn't really impact us in terms of if we need to access it, we will access it, no matter what's there,
Correct.
right?
But it would inhibit the access of that piece if people were to build big staircases or other
Yeah, I
structures
know.
within that easement. That's a detriment to the town when it comes to having to maintain that.
Yeah, it
that
could be
area.
more labor for them to do it. It would probably be a good suggestion to say, hey, if you're gonna put it there, know that this is a possibility and we'll give you
Give you 20 days to remove it.
24 hours to get rid of it.
Right.
I wouldn't say 20 days because you never know what
Yeah.
emergency
this
might
is-
be arising from
I
that.
think it's a good idea to have it be removable.
Agreed.
I've modified the motion to reconstruction of movable deck stairs.
Not to exceed, do we have an amount so that, you know, this is the first one of these that I've seen, so
It is on a
as we
plot
move
plan.
forward, it would be helpful to have kind of a bar, you know, we've set the bar here so that the next person that comes in, you know, says, well, you did it before, but it could have been a much bigger encroachment or a much less encroachment, so
Yeah.
we knew the extent of it.
Yeah, so where I'm coming from on this, having given it some thought, the town has acquired property rights through an easement, but it's property rights. We need to treat everyone here equally. We need to anticipate that there will be future requests. I think rather than doing these all as one-offs, it seems to me we ought to have a policy that everyone can look at and we're all the neighbors can be aware of what is or isn't allowed in the easement, and I don't think we're there yet. If this were just one or two properties, I'd be comfortable issuing permission from here, but where it's potentially dozens or more, and again, everybody needs to be treated fairly and equally, I would propose that we prepare a policy for this, in anticipation of other applications that are probably coming when the snow melts.
I agree. Springtime's coming and everyone wants their view. The biggest complaint I get is, you know, they can't even see the sea or the ocean from their space now. You know, and that's a big problem. And I've been down there in some of these people's houses because of other things I've had to deal with
But if
down there.
not for the wall,
They
then
They wouldn't be
they
there. I
have
know.
a house to
It's
see
a
the
balancing
ocean
act.
from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you basically, we don't make the motion and actually then ask Jim to develop a policy, that's what I'm hearing, right?
Jim or Rainey or
Can I,
someone, go ahead, Mike.
the only thought I have on that is, people have different properties and they have different structures. So do you feel comfortable with the policy, or would you prefer that we deal with these on one-offs? Because it could be, one day it could be a deck, one day it could be staircase.
only
Like,
two
this
steps.
staircase seems reasonable.
And that's exactly what's bubbling up inside me right now, because every one of these are a different situation, and we have a software, I guess we use, called Nearmap, that allows us to look back to 2014, so we can see pre-existing structures prior to the seawall and after the seawall, and part of that is like, some of that stuff is protected by Mass General Law, and, for being in existence for over 10 years, if it wasn't permitted, but then there's other regulating authorities. There's a conservation that they don't have a statute of limitations on their regulating authority. So it gets really tricky to try and create up an all-encompassing policy for multiple situations, so I agree with you 100%. It's a tough one to write. That would involve multiple regulating authorities, meaning the board, conservation, and myself with the building code and zoning.
Well, we wouldn't be granting any rights other than the permission that's set forth in the easement.
Right.
We're not granting rights on behalf of conservation, on behalf of zoning, to the extent there's nonconformities or anything like that. I understand the attraction of approaching all of them as one-offs, but I think we can set forth some sort of baseline policy where, again, we're the property holder, or we're the owner of rights.
Correct.
That need to be protected for future maintenance, whatever. So maybe the policy says, if you want to put a stone patio in at grade, sure, we're okay with that. If you're going to put in electrical for lights at night, maybe we don't allow that. Maybe we don't allow structures. I don't know, but I can think of maybe a half dozen things that, if I were living on the beach, that I'd like to have there, and might be a very reasonable request. But we need to balance the needs between maintaining the seawall over the long term, and granting rights of the underlying fee owner. Of course, they still own the property subject to our easement, so I want to balance those things. But not to beat this to death, but I want to do so in a way that's consistent. And I'm not sure that us looking at these one at a time would provide that consistency, but I do appreciate that each situation is likely to be somewhat different. But I suspect, given the configuration of these lots, and they're all very small, that we'll see some combination of stairs, protrusions coming in, patios. So there is going to be some commonality. And I think we need to have consistency as to what we're going to allow in the easement area, so that 25 years from now, if somebody needs to go in there on behalf of the town and do maintenance, that we're not, spending lots of time and effort gently moving, intricate structures that may have gone in as a one-off. So that's where I am, but I'm happy to hear from anyone else.
I think that, there could be an enormous variety of issues. And for us to try to develop a policy over an enormous variety of issues that we don't even know what they are, really, it would be almost impossible. This one in particular, it's 2 steps, if they make it removable, I don't see that there's an issue. They have to get off their deck somehow, and that's the only way they can do it.
I think you can have your cake and eat it too, Brian. I think that,
Yeah,
I think that, for this one, because this is calling into light that we don't have a policy, that this is a new easement, that we need to decide what we want and what we don't want in there. At the same time, this is the first one that's come, they're looking to do 2 steps in. We're talking about them being removable. I don't think it encroaches into the easement, more than 5-10 feet?
Yeah, I think it's 2 or 3 feet.
We could
It's a little more than that.
we could, if we were to allow this, it wouldn't preclude us from still developing, because I agree with you. I think that consistency and fairness is important, and giving people an idea of what's allowed, what isn't allowed, what this board
Right.
will agree to is important.
All right.
There are,
Is the applicant here?
yes,
Can we hear from the applicant that he or she is okay with removable stairs?
yeah, sure. I think he's here.
Come on up. The microphone is important for folks at home to hear you.
My name is Reginald Newcomb. I'm the contractor that'll be doing the project if it does move forward. The homeowners agreed to put movable stairs on. I talked to Jimmy about it. I think it makes the most sense. It's not hard to do. And like I said back there, I think we're only like 8 or 12 inches into the easement. The house on both sides, their decks are probably 7 feet out past where they're gonna have their stairs that are existing there now.
I don't think I understand what you're saying. Their decks.
So the house to the right and the house to the left have pre-existing structures that are there now that protrude into the easement way further than this one does.
They're already there and they're not going anywhere.
Right, and some of them are 2 stories.
Got it.
2 stories.
Oh, that's a problem. Okay, well, that's
Can't
another
move that.
conversation.
So you see the water.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. Okay.
And like Cynthia said, it's the second egress out of the house, so you do have to have,
Yeah,
and they only got 3 feet on both sides, so you can't put the stairs either side or you'll be on the neighbor's property.
yeah, you can. All
All right.
right, life is complicated.
It
Okay.
is complicated. I see Ms. Babcock has her hand up. Go ahead, Alicia. Do you want to say something about this?
Hi, Alicia Babcock, Ocean Road South. I just wanted to speak to this easement and things that are going on there. I spoke to Jim this afternoon for a little bit. We kind of anticipated this might be a little bit of an issue after the construction because Northern came in and had to remove everything, and the expectation was that everything that was there would just go back. But it seems to be kind of not that simple because of this document we signed, this easement for the construction, which allows the town to come in and do maintenance or any emergency work that has to happen. We're all for that. I mean, we have no problem with the town coming in if necessary. But I think a lot of this kind of transpired with the mindset of the wall we used to have. There's always a maintenance agreement on that because Pete Buckus used to come in and he had a lot of maintenance to do because the wall was crumbling. And that's not the case now. We've got a brand-new, really, really robust wall that doesn't need that kind of maintenance anymore. The only thing that, from what we can tell, would require maintenance would be some of those vertical expansion joints. And so as long as the homeowners stay away from those expansion joints, the town has access, from what we can see, to really anything that would need attention potentially. And even still, that probably would be very few and far between. So I guess with the irregularity of the neighborhood and everything that's non-conforming and all of these kind of one-off situations, I guess I would request that we go forward kind of as we always have been. The residents have always kind of just used that area in front of their house in varying amounts between their house and the seawall for, patios and, different things that they do out there, without it being an issue. And people realize that, in the event of some crazy situation, that the town might have to come in and move something, and we are prepared to absorb whatever comes along with that. So, if something gets demolished or broken or something, that's the risk that we assume as the homeowner by building something in that area. I think when we agreed to sign that easement, we didn't agree to give away the property to the town to just leave it vacant. That's really the only space that we have to kind of maneuver and do anything. And from a safety perspective, it's kind of important to have structures that allow you to see up and over the wall, because there's a lot of things that happen in the summer and really year-round on the beach. There's kids playing, there's people swimming, you've got an occasional raft or paddle boater that is out there on an offshore breeze, and, we don't have a lifeguard, and we're often kind of, as a neighborhood, grabbing somebody that has a boat and running out and saving people and doing like little things that, it's important to be able to see what's going on the other side of the wall. So I think that's why, It's like got a twofold issue. It's that, and it's also for enjoyment.
Okay, appreciate that, but the big difference now, though, is there is a formal easement, and it requires permission of the
Yeah.
town for anything new built in there, so I commend the building commissioner and the applicant for coming in to ask for two steps. I know
Right.
it seems kind of silly, but it is important for keeping tabs on the easement that the town
Sure.
has and needs to maintain. Any other comments from the board? No questions? Mr. Reed?
Yep, I had a couple of questions for Jim. I noticed you mentioned near map, and I use it quite a bit too. I didn't know if you had an opportunity to look and see how many pre-existing structures were out there prior to the storm. Like, is it 30, or is it 300, or 20?
I'd say at least 30,
30?
at
Okay.
least.
Okay.
You know, I never quantified a number, but there are several structures that
Okay,
were there.
that's fine. So we imagine it's 30. Is reconstruction the only thing that's allowed? In other words, could you do new construction if there wasn't a pre-existing deck?
This is where it gets kind of tricky.
Yeah.
Really tricky. And this is where zoning comes in, special permit stuff, because if someone had a pre-existing structure, one, it would have had to been permitted some way. If it was a pre-existing structure, it would be something beyond a patio, because a patio wasn't regulated for zoning purposes. So if it was a structure that, if it was someone that wanted to propose a new structure in there, it gets complicated because it's possible they would be creating a new nonconformity which wouldn't be allowed through zoning anyway, and it would take a variance in order to do so. They could expand along a lot line, a pre-existing structure that had a nonconformity, but they couldn't make it any more nonconforming
Yeah.
with respect to further encroachment into the side or into a new setback. So the challenge that I've been trying to give answers to the town, people that have been coming up to me and asking that they want to replace these structures that
Yeah.
they think was a structure, but they want to raise it now. Well, now that creates a problem, because it's now considered a structure, it's permittable, requires a special permit from the zoning board of appeals, and then it also requires approval from conservation,
Right.
which is another regulating authority that most likely, in my experience, and I can't speak to everyone because everyone is unique, because it's considered a barrier beach, they aren't allowed to now put foundation stuff to support these, where before they were ground structures. So it's very complicated. I've had meetings for a year and a half in my office with Rainey, Conservation, DPW, and myself to try and establish a policy. We worked with Sharon Everett, who deals with our land stuff, to try and figure if we could come up with a policy. And the reality is, because there's separate regulating authorities, it was incredibly difficult for even to begin that task, because everyone has little nuances. And then to overlay it is the approval from the select board with anything that's gonna be in that spot now. So I can't fathom how to begin to write that policy from one singular point, which I wouldn't expect anyway, but it's a very challenging thing to try and be all encompassing on. And it's a lot for you folks, because there are several people that have been waiting for answers from me for a year and a half now that I just couldn't give them, because there's separate regulating authorities.
So it sounds like the only time that people would be coming before the board would be those that are looking to reconstruct what was once there that was a non-permanent structure, sort
Yeah.
of. Is that a fair statement?
That's a pretty fair
It's
statement.
not going to be new stuff. It's going to be pre-existing, not in a foundation.
Correct. Some people want to expand, but the other challenge is it gets a little more complicated, because some people's property lines are the seawall just beyond.
Yeah.
Some property lines are the low mean water line,
Yeah,
right?
right,
So,
So this is, I think we're putting our finger on the fact this is complicated.
Very complicated,
We're-
yeah.
We're not going to solve it tonight. We have a long agenda. I do think that it's worthwhile to attempt a policy, and my recommendation, at least as a starting point, would be that, given there are so many different regulatory agents or bodies within the town, including the select board, that as applications or requests come in, that maybe in a building permit style review of different departments saying, hey, have you seen this? What's your opinion? At least get consensus as to what the issues may be, even if there's no formal process or a building permit isn't necessarily required. I suspect some other permit might be, especially for conservation. So that, Any other comments?
We
from-
do have
from the board?
Sharon online, so I'll ask her to develop that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be, a volume with different appendices. It just, maybe something simple that folks who are out there can easily understand. These are the things I can do, these are the things I can't do, and these are the people I need to see. I think we're a pretty cooperative town. This is an important resource for the town, but certainly we appreciate the property rights that the owners have out there. And I know we can balance those to the parties' mutual satisfaction. So having something that everybody can look at, I think will be useful, and we'll work toward a policy.
And if I could just confirm that whether it's new construction, reconstruction, any of it has to come before this board
Yes.
if it's within the easement area.
Yeah, correct. My understanding, yeah.
Okay.
All right, before we move to a motion, are there any final comments on this particular issue? And do we have anything online? Ms. O'Connor? No? Okay. Great, may I have a motion?
I move that the Select Board approves reconstruction of removable deck stairs adjacent to the seawall, which is within the town of Duxbury's easement premises located at 31 Ocean Road North, Duxbury.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion carries 5-0. Next is vote to reopen the March 14th, 2026 annual town meeting warrant. Mr. Clerk.
I move that the Select Board reopens the March 14th, 2026 annual town meeting warrant.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries 5-0. Mr. Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had spoken with you about this earlier, but I'd like to take the two, the two election ballot questions out of order. I'd like to first have the discussion on the Alden School feasibility study debt exclusion ballot question. Mary's going to provide you some background on the information that you have in your packet, which is a memo, and if you don't have it, I have hard copies if you need one.
Anybody on the board have an objection to taking matters out of order?
No.
Okay.
And-
Please
and-
proceed.
Thank you. And coupled with that is a lengthier 25-page document of previous town meeting warrants and ballots, just to show you the language. I also have John Lemieux, who is the chair of the Alden School Building Committee, here to provide information as well. But with that, I'll turn it over to Mary.
Do we want to start with the actual wording of the question?
Sure.
Okay.
I did see the memo.
Okay, great. So, thank you for having us here this evening and addressing these issues. So I did prepare a memo that has been distributed to the Select Board. It was in response to your last meeting where there was some preliminary conversation regarding the feasibility study and specifically the debt exclusion question. And the two questions that I pulled out of your conversation that I have addressed in that accompanying memo were, number one, why isn't the amount of the project specified in the ballot question? And number two, why can't the town reword the question to provide additional information and/or clarity to the voters? And so what I have provided for you is a link to the Division of Local Services Proposition 2.5 framework. Proposition 2.5 is a statute, so we are bound to the framework that is specified within that statute. And on the relevant pages that I have specified in the memo, the guidance indicates clearly that the ballot questions must follow the exact language in the Proposition 2.5 statute. That exact language specifically precludes a community from specifying an amount in a debt exclusion question. So in other words, no amounts are allowed to be specified in those questions. And the reason is that including a dollar figure implies that voters are approving of a specific expenditure amount when in fact they are not. They are approving the concept of excluding debt from the levy for the life of the borrowing. The amount of the project is what is appropriated at town meeting. Does that make sense?
It does, just because this is an important question for voters. Can we just repeat that?
Verbatim?
Well, no, just to make clear, so that the
So-
actual dollar figure is determined at town meeting.
Correct.
The vote at the election is to endorse the vote of,
It is to endorse the concept of allowing the funds that need to be raised to borrow and finance the cost of the project. The voters are allowing the concept that we are excluding that amount from the provisions of Prop 2.5 for the term of the borrowing.
In the amount that town meeting 2 weeks prior had voted.
Correct. And it doesn't always have to be prior. So there are some communities that hold their elections before town meeting.
In our case.
And in our case, the election is held after. So we will know the amount of the appropriation that is being requested at town meeting on March 14th. But on March 28th, the voters we are asking the voters to approve the concept of allowing us to raise those funds in excess of the Prop 2.5 limitation for the lifetime of the borrowing.
Any questions on that from the board? No. Okay, go right ahead.
Nope.
You can continue with your presentation. That's clear to me.
Perfect. And then in terms of, I think Mr. Lemieux may be presenting some information, but one of the other additional pieces of information that I did provide for you in that same document is an estimate of the cost on the last page. Did you see that?
Would you mind breaking that down for the public?
Sure. Would it be possible to share my screen so that folks could follow along as well?
Yes, please.
Okay, what's about your mind?
Just try to make that a little bit bigger.
Came from Amy, but now I can't find it.
Do you guys need hard copy?
Yes.
Can folks
Grab
in
me
the
one as
room
well, please.
see that? Okay.
I read it earlier.
Fantastic. So again, this is a budgetary estimate, but the way the process will work is that the estimated project cost is 1.75 million. I think today's newspaper reported 1.8, but the actual cost that we're aware of is 1.75 million. The town is eligible for MSBA reimbursement with respect to the feasibility study. MSBA stands for the Massachusetts School Building Authority, and it is a program that communities can apply to in order to receive state funding to offset the costs of feasibility studies as well as construction of school buildings. The town has been notified that they are eligible for approximately a 38% reimbursement on that feasibility study, which would equate to approximately $665,000. In addition to that, the school department has available funds on hand to be utilized to defray the cost of this study, $200,000 from the Building Use Revolving Fund, and $100,000 from a previously appropriated town meeting article for a construction project that came in under budget. And so what we will be asking town meeting to do is to repurpose those funds from that construction project to this particular feasibility study. Therefore, the net proceeds that we anticipate that we will be borrowing is approximately $785,000. However, the MSBA program is a reimbursement program, so we need town meeting authority for the full spending amount to fully expend 1.75. That's why we are asking for that. But it will be defrayed by these three funding sources that I just mentioned. So that's a clear illustration of one reason why you do not put an amount in a debt exclusion question, because the amount that you're appropriating may be much less when it comes to what you are permanently financing. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So the anticipation would be, and I'll just sort of further, if I could go along, the anticipation would be that a feasibility study is eligible for a maximum of a 5-year borrowing term. You cannot finance a feasibility study beyond that according to Mass General Law. So what will happen in practicality is that should the town approve the feasibility study, we will undertake those efforts. That will take a period of time, anywhere from 12 to 24 months. And then we will submit those eligible costs to be reimbursed. At the inception of the project, I would be issuing short-term notes, bands, in order to finance the project. Those bands would be in place for 2 years, which means we would only be paying the small amount of interest on those bands until we permanently finance the note. We would anticipate that we're financing the note basically in year 3 of the project. So the payback period of that 5-year window, the payback period would actually take place over the remaining 3 years. So we would anticipate that the annual debt service on that is about $339,000, which would equate to an average single-family tax bill impact of about $52 per year. And that it's more than likely going to be slightly less than that because I'm using an estimate of a fairly aggressive interest rate. The current interest rates are a little bit below 4.5%, but this would be sort of an upper limit for people to anticipate the tax impact. Does that make sense?
Yep.
It does.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Amy, do you have a question?
I do. Can you just elaborate a little bit? I'm sorry, the building use fund, is that a fund that we hold here in town? What can you elaborate on that?
That is a fund that is under the care and custody of the school committee. That is not a town fund. And so it's
Where
other.
do those funds come from?
It's commonly referred to as the building rental fund. When they rent out facilities, any proceeds that they receive from the rental and use of the facility go into that revolving account.
Fernando?
Yeah, so my concern is with regards to the ballot itself, right? My understanding of the school itself is a bit like the PowerPoint bridge. It needs to be rebuilt, and right now we're spending money just to keep it going. So my concern is basically what happens if the ballot question fails, right? Are we still going to go ahead and do the feasibility study, or basically we will just continue spending money after a bad project, spending good money after a bad project, so to speak?
So I'll give you a short answer, and then we may want to defer to John, who can talk about the project. But if the ballot question fails,
Yep.
then this financing mechanism would not move forward. So if the appropriation passes at town meeting, that appropriation is being passed contingent upon a successful ballot vote.
Yeah, I understand
So we
that.
would not proceed with that.
So how
Are
will we
there-
fund, how will we go about? The question is, ballot failed, we have a school that's falling apart, we're throwing good money after a bad project. What are we going to do? That's my question. I think that's the risk I see. If the ballot fails, what are we going to do?
Right?
Go ahead, Mike.
I just preliminarily here, and I certainly don't want to cut you off, and I don't want to cut off the folks here that wanted to say something too. In fact, I want to hear from you. But I think, tonight, as far as the wording for the ballot question, I think that's something we can handle tonight. But I want to be cognizant of the fact that, of no fault of really anyone, the school committee's meeting tonight in another part of the town. The superintendent's not here. The school committee members that have been working on this for several years, who put this on in the warrant, aren't here to advocate for it as well. I think if there's additional questions or trepidation, that we allow them to come in and advocate for it. I have no issue with Mr. Lemieux, explaining this. I think more information, the better. But if the article piece of this, if we go back down to the articles, if we're taking that up tonight, I would, and there's still questions, I would want the proponents to be here, because I'm sure they have a lot to say.
That's a good point, Mike. In fact, the reason that John's here is just for the ballot question.
Okay.
To help you explain the mechanics.
Yeah, and before you begin, I know there are other folks who are interested in speaking as well. So the issue we're looking at tonight is simply whether this question goes in the ballot and in what form.
Right.
Not whether it's a good idea or not, although we all have opinions on that. That's what Mike was speaking about a second ago. So to the extent folks want to speak tonight, I'd appreciate if you can keep it to the issue of the ballot question itself. With that, Mr. Lemieux.
Right, so my question is specifically about the ballot. Do we put this ballot in there? I want to understand the risk of us approving the ballot tonight for this feasibility study. Because if the ballot fails, I want to know what's going on, right? So that, my question directly pertains to the ballot. All right?
Sure.
John Lemieux, 291 Standish Street, Chair of the Alden School Building Committee. So basically, being invited into the MSBA process, right, the feasibility study that you are approving is really a feasibility study and a schematic design. It's a deep dive into the problems of the school, a look at multiple solutions, a winnowing down of those solutions to, the preferred solution, and then taking that solution into the MSBA's schematic design process, basically to get it to about a 20% design and get that budget for what the fix is. So to answer your question shortly, if you voted it down, you could still go ahead and do just a feasibility study, right, on your own without the MSBA. But it wouldn't be at this town meeting, it wouldn't be at that ballot. It would be at some other time later. And that feasibility study would come without the MSBA, without the reimbursement. So the town would just have to make a decision, okay, let's go back to the drawing board, and if we're gonna do this, we can go and just do a feasibility study, but with the MSBA, they make you take the next step and say, okay, let's start to design that solution that you've decided as a town is what's right for you.
So how much money are we, if this ballot question fails, what are we going to be spending to keep Alden School running for the next year? Do we know?
We're
No
gonna do
idea?
that anyway.
I'm just trying to figure
Yeah.
out,
No,
what's
understood.
the risk
Not-
here,
yeah,
right? What's the
Yep.
risk?
So
Yeah.
if we can answer that in two parts, John,
Sure.
could you also just explain the requirement of the MSBA in terms of ongoing maintenance of the building?
Sure, so as part of the reimbursement rate, let me back up. What's the town has just gone through is what's called the eligibility period. As part of the eligibility period, MSBA asked a lot of questions, and one of the questions is, what are you gonna do for maintenance? They look at all your issues, that was part of the invitation, so they concur. The Alden needs some help, it needs a lot of help, right? As far as the maintenance, I think what you're referring to, Mary, is, what's your program, how are you gonna keep it up? And you get graded on that, and if you get past feasibility, you actually get extra reimbursement points on top of that 38 to say, okay, because you do such a job of taking care of your buildings, that kind of gets included on the way. Is that
Yeah.
what you?
Yeah, I guess part of what I'm suggesting is we can't stop doing repairs and maintenance on the building. That would jeopardize our participation in this program.
Correct, but
And
what
our-
typically happens is a prioritization, right? I'm working as a project manager on an elementary school in Situate right now, and what they did is said, okay, all of the capital money that we usually put towards this school, we're gonna put over to these schools because we know this is at least in the process. And one of the questions was, if we don't do it, well, what's gonna happen? Well, you're gonna have to fix the things that are failing. Specifically,
And-
what that answer is and what the facility manager's thoughts are on that, that's
Okay.
a question for them.
So is it fair to say then, if this ballot fails, what we're putting at risk here, if the ballot fails, is at least 38% reimbursement?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So why don't we, sorry.
Could I,
Can I just-
Amy and then Mike.
Right.
So on that note, what I'm asking is, with the MSBA participation, it looks like that allows you the 38% reimbursement from them for the feasibility study. Are there other discounts, if you will, that you are eligible for if you participate with MSBA as opposed to if the town just did it on their own? In other words,
Yes, but
so if
only
you were to
after,
move forward with
only
the-
if you decide to move forward with the recommendation of that schematic design, and that's the
That-
big
that's
vote.
what I'm
That's
asking.
the.
So if you
that-
don't use
right.
MSBA, then you don't get, what are the further discounts?
You could get up to 2 additional reimbursement points for maintenance, and you can get up to 4 additional reimbursement points depending on if you meet the opt-in energy code, the state's opt-in energy code. Again, that would be part of the discussion as you're trying to figure out the preferred solution to fix the Alden, you would make those decisions at that time. Hey, we want to do this type of heating, we want to do this type of cooling. And we would know at the end of that process, are we eligible for the additional 4 points? So your 38 essentially becomes 42, right? So those additional incentives only come after you finish this process and the town says, yes, we want to keep going. This is just the first step of what would be a 5 or 6 year process with the MSBA.
So,
Go ahead, Mike.
So it's my understanding too, that, and one's first step, that this is, and our vote here tonight doesn't commit us to a specific project at the Alden School. We're gonna get an idea of what our issues are, what the cost would be to say, do a renovation, to just do up maintenance, to do a rebuild somewhere. It would be a kind of a menu.
100%, and the MSBA, part of the process and why it's more involved and why it costs more is because they require you to look at, just fix it, renovate it, do an addition to it, knock it down and build it again. And not just on the location where it is, where are the other places in the town where you could build it? And they require you to look at all those sites. And then when it moves to schematic design, and why is it so expensive? Because it's not just the architect, it's the architect and up to 12 to 16 sub-consultants, structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. It goes into the whole design. So doing it on your own, you're not getting all of this, you're doing just the first piece of it. So yes, you could do it cheaper, but then you lose out on the reimbursement, and then you're doing it cheaper only in name up front because you haven't bought that whole schematic design piece, which the MSBA has you do as part of the, solve the problem. What they want is a thorough and thoughtful solution that people have had time to, talk about, and, you've hopefully made something that the town has reached consensus on as a solution.
Cindy?
So if you went and did it on your own, it would be just the step one, so to speak. It would be less expensive, but you'd only get a portion.
You would get none of it. You would get nothing from the MSBA. You would
No,
get
nothing, not from them. But if you did a feasibility study on your own.
Right.
You would get a certain amount of information.
what's wrong and what are we gonna do? Here's what you could do next. The MSBA makes you take it and say, of the what you could do next, make a decision and keep moving with it. That's the difference between with MSBA and without.
It is inexpensive. I hear what Mike's saying, and I think this is a bigger conversation we owe to the public to have a bigger conversation about this, because it's a lot of money. So I think the more we can understand,
Yeah.
why is it best to use the MSBA? If whatever decision we make towards the either the renovation or the rebuild somewhere, do we get more of a state reimbursement with the whole project if we use MSBA? What are the perks of using it? What are,
Reimbursement. It's the only game in town really for reimbursement for a large capital
but is
project
the
like this.
markup so much that you're, you know what I mean? Sometimes.
No, public construction is public construction. The reality is Duxbury is gonna have to build a project using prevailing wage
Yeah.
and all the things that, you saw what the DPW cost, right? It's that level of expense, whether you're building a fire station or a school. The difference with the MSBA is you actually get something back.
So I think gotta make that clear, right?
Right.
If we do it ourselves, it's gonna cost just as much money, right? We don't get reimbursement or more.
Right.
Because we don't get the reimbursement.
That's correct.
We're playing with 38%. So if we do it our own, we're not gonna be able to go out cheaper and find a cheaper contractor.
And just to be clear
right?
too, in the feasibility study, it's 38%. When you move past the feasibility, it's a percentage of eligible costs.
Right.
So there are rules about those, and that's for a whole other story later. And that would be, we would talk through all of that as part of the feasibility study. The MSBA caps its reimbursement on construction costs at X dollars a square foot, and whatever costs above that, you don't get paid back for that. As an example, I think our reimbursement rate in the middle high school was, I'm gonna ballpark numbers, let's say it was 45%.
Right.
When we ultimately look at what we spent versus what we got back, I think we got like 30% back. It's because that difference between the percentage of eligible costs versus the percentage compared to all of the overall costs.
Well, that's a crusher.
Yeah, but it's still,
Still,
yeah, but it still got us
Of a lot
$30
of
million
money.
that we wouldn't have gotten.
Right.
Ballpark,
Yeah,
using
but
those
when you're
numbers.
selling it to town, you're saying, oh yeah, we're gonna get 45% reimbursement,
You-
and then it turns
I will
into
never
30, that's.
I will
that's
never allow our
crushing.
committee to say that, because it's 45% of eligible costs. People hear sometimes what they want to hear, but ultimately the definition is very important. It's not 45, it's 45 of eligible, and that will be a very important piece. Now, for the feasibility study, it's 38. It's 38 of what we're asking for. And again, just big picture, I saw some comments. This process about choosing your team and your designer, it's qualifications based, but we still get to negotiate with them. This isn't, we're going to authorize 1.75 and use it all. The idea, if I do this as a living every day, would be to keep a piece of it for contingency and then use, ask for proposals and, negotiate with them and, try to do it as cost effectively as we can, while still have some extra aside in case someone wants to put a boring in the ground somewhere we didn't think of. Or, hey, there's this other piece of property we need to look at, and look at things that way.
One more, and then I'd like to give it back to Rainey and Mary in case they have anything to add. Go ahead.
Maybe it's a question for Rennie and Mary. Why did we put this on the ballot question? Why didn't we use capital?
Oh, we had other projects that needed capital funding that deal with facilities primarily.
Right, so we're basically, again.
And this is the most transparent method.
Yeah, I understand, but we as a select board have not looked at the capital program and prioritized this. Being on a ballot question, we're risking, at least for the feasibility, 38% reimbursement. If this ballot question fails, we still need to do the project, but we don't have 30%, 38% coming from the feasibility study, and we don't have maybe 30% or whatever reimbursement from MSBA. That's what we're putting at risk right here,
And then you
by being on the ballot question, yeah.
And also the Fiscal Advisory Committee went that way as well.
Exactly. The Fiscal Advisory Committee and the Finance Committee both voted to recommend that this be handled as a debt exclusion. And then, as Rainey had indicated, it's a funding mechanism. So what we were able to fund appropriately in the capital program with the resources that we have available. And you're going to see in Article 6 that there are some big ticket items that are critical to our organization that need to be addressed. And so with all of those things in mind, the limited financial capabilities as well as our priorities, it was
Again,
presented this way.
we seem to be out of sequence here, right? We've been asked to approve a ballot question. We haven't actually sat down as a select board and had the Fiscal Advisory Committee come in and explain the priorities, right? Again, we're basically rubber stamping because we haven't had the chance to sit down, look at the capital list, right, and the priorities. This is one of them, and actually this select board come up with a recommendation.
Well, the Fiscal Advisory Committee is the group that
Yeah,
makes the
fiscal
recommendations.
that reports, they advise the select board, right? We appoint the Fiscal Advisory Committee, don't we? As a moderator does?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. It's the same problem with the operating budget. We're having the same thing with the capital budget. We're out of sequence again. This select board approves the budget right before it goes out to the fiscal advisory.
Which you did.
Before
Yeah.
but it's the operating budget and the capital budget. It's a budget. Anyway, we'll have a conversation later on, but anyway, I just want to make that point to everybody in this room. All right, such that,
Point well taken.
okay?
Mary or Rainey, anything to add to this particular question? I know there are folks in the audience who'd like to speak to it. I'd like to open the floor. So,
all set, thank
okay. I understand there are folks who would like to speak to this. You're more than welcome. Yes, Mrs. Sullivan.
I'd just like to add, because I understand your frustration, but the Finance Committee, although, we looked at everything and we thought that this was better as a debt exclusion, the other piece of the puzzle, along with what Mary and Rainey had said, is this is obviously the gateway to building a building or renovating a building and a much larger project. And we felt strongly that the town needed to have every opportunity to review and vote. So putting it in capital at a meeting where, the whole town is not there, does not perhaps have an opportunity for a voice, by doing a debt exclusion, not only did we give that body the ability to decide whether this was a yes or a no, by putting it on the ballot, we made sure that every voter in town had a voice.
Yeah.
And it's too big of an ask. We have large capital projects. We have a bridge. We have finished the seawall, the DPW. We have these large projects, And the one thing that I personally have heard, and I think you as well, is that the community feels extremely strongly about the fact that they deserve a voice. And this was the clearest voice. This not only gave them the ability to vote at a town meeting, it gave them the ability to vote at it in a ballot. And I feel as though that was one of the big reasons that this was the way to go.
I agree, and the select board needs a voice because
Well, we-
basically the residents hold the select board accountable for the operating budget and the capital budget, right? If there's issues with it, they come to the select board. We are the elected body.
Yes.
And so we have not had the chance to have that discussion. I totally agree with you, but we have not, as a board, sat down and had that discussion, looked at the priorities and made that decision, right?
And I don't debate that. I'm just saying the reason that a debt exclusion versus capital, that was that process.
Yeah.
I'm speaking only to that as a process.
Yeah.
Gave you and the community and the voter, who ultimately is the yes or no,
Yep.
the ability to have a real good time to take a look at this and make their decision thoughtfully.
Yep.
So
I couldn't agree more.
Okay.
It's just
Thank
about making sure that we understand the risk associated with that. but
Yes,
that's fine.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Come on up. Introduce yourself for our record, please.
Hi there, I am Jen Burns, Duxbury resident. I'm a mother of 3 school-aged children. And you're breaking the ice for me, thank you.
Calm down, Fernando.
Sorry, why don't you hold on just a
You're
second?
so kind, Frank. Thank you.
Why don't you start again in case the...
Absolutely.
Okay.
Jen Burns, Duxbury resident, mother of 3 students in the Duxbury Public Schools, and an Alden school teacher for the past 18 years. I am here tonight to advocate for the approval of the Alden School Feasibility Study. Having worked in nearly every corner of the facility for almost 2 decades, I'm well acquainted with the building. Frankly, Alden is in disrepair and has numerous problems inherent to an 80-year-old building, ranging from excessive heat on the upper floors during warm days to ADA noncompliance and security vulnerabilities inherent in our shared lobby. However, I want to focus on a primary concern that represents a significant liability to our town: water infiltration. We are currently managing a building where moisture is not merely an occasional nuisance, but a systemic failure. Water seeps up through the floor on hot, humid days. It seeps under the doors and through the roof on rainy days or when the snow is melting. And it is absolutely not uncommon to see students slipping and falling in the hallways and trash cans throughout the building catching water. As a coastal community, we understand that unchecked moisture is a major problem. From a municipal standpoint, it's not just a maintenance issue, it's a matter of risk mitigation, asset preservation, and operational efficacy. Continuing to allow water to bypass the building envelope is exponentially increasing the eventual cost of remediation, and learning environments cannot function optimally when bucket brigades are a standing operating procedure. The proposed feasibility study is a necessary mechanism to move us from a reactive crisis management to proactive capital planning. It allows us to gather the data required to make a fiscally responsible, educated decision. As Mary already stated, the financial impact for the average homeowner is about $52 per year over the course of 3 years. I appreciate your questions regarding the source of funding for the building. It is absolutely a priority. If we don't say yes at this point, it puts us back decades. And quite frankly, we don't have that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burns. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this matter?
Brian, just,
Go ahead, Mike.
just as a parent, I've seen the buckets, and my daughter had, a classmate faint in class in, a September month. And so I've been in there recently, and I suggested to Dr. Klingeman that if the board would be interested, that we have some tours, a tour of the school, because I think it's important for us to put an image in our mind when we're talking to voters, and people are asking why I'm spending another $52 or why we're going forward with this. If you'd like, I can follow up on that and certainly see if you folks want a tour of the school.
Like a field trip?
Field trip
Always.
sure
I
was
love
good.
a field trip.
Yeah, sign us up, Mike.
All right.
Thank you. Do we have anybody online with hand raised? Ms. Sheehan?
I hope I can explain this question. Susanna Sheehan, Duxbury Clipper. I'm curious about the $52.
tax is going up. That's after you get the reimbursement?
Correct.
So it takes how long to get a reimbursement?
The process?
Yeah, because you've got to, the 1.75 million that you're going to borrow will make people's
Right.
taxes go up more than that until you get the reimbursement.
No, that's not the case. So we would issue short-term notes. So the town would receive proceeds from the sale of short-term notes. We would receive 1.75 million. But we do not need to pay that back in full until you're in year 3 of the note. So what happens on a short-term note is you pay interest only.
And when
And
did
then
you
when-
anticipate
and-
the reimbursement coming back?
The reimbursement, well, John can speak to that. It would be after the completion of the feasibility study and when they submit the information to MSBA. You can probably, oh, okay, go for it.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Lemieux, go right ahead.
As they're going through.
Reimbursement, as soon as the town proves to the state that they've passed the question, and you start contracting, the month that you pay your first bill, you can submit it the next week, and it's usually about a 3-week turn. So as long as you are monthly submitting, you will be getting reimbursements monthly. The old MSBA, it used to be wait to the end, submit all your costs, get one check. Now it's monthly as you
better.
spend.
Perfect. So we'll know sooner, rather than later, what the final cost will be and what we would be permanently financing.
Ms. Sheehan, does that answer the question? Okay.
Suzanne, if you want to call me tomorrow, we can talk about it a little bit further, if you're going to put it. Okay, great.
All right. Yes, Amy?
So I guess one of the things that we haven't really talked to, and I think, or spoken about, and I believe that we'll have an opportunity in the future, and I know that we've all received emails with comments from residents that they believe that the feasibility study itself seems extraordinarily high for the amount of students that are in the school, and, you know, we've all seen the emails. So I'm hoping that at future meetings, when we, you know, talk more about this and the school committee is available to answer the questions, that we can try to understand, you know, why the cost is what it is.
Okay. You look like you have something, Mike.
No,
Okay.
just looking at you.
So, Rainey, as we approach the votes here, I think it would make sense for us to take these one at a time. Is there anything further that you need from the board for us to proceed on the Alden School question?
No, thank you.
All right. Anything else from the audience or the board while we're here? Okay. And this is, again, just for the placement of the question on the ballot. We're not authorizing anything monetarily right now. May I have a motion, Mr. Clerk?
I move that Select Board vote to add the Alden School feasibility study ballot question to the annual town election on Saturday, March 28th, 2026.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries 5-0. Next is the override ballot question, Mr. Reed.
Terrific. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At your last meeting, there was discussion pertaining to the excess levy capacity figure noted in Article 5B. And Nancy, if I could trouble you, please, to pull up this little PDF. By the way, do you all have, does anybody up there need a copy of this? Okay.
Copy of what?
That's from last week, I think, right?
I think you emailed it to us.
Yeah, we got it.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, got it.
And if you could go to the third page, please. Scroll down, I'll let you know where. Right there, perfect. Like I said, at your last meeting, there was discussion pertaining to the excess levy capacity figure noted in Article 5B. And as you'll see here, the excess levy capacity figure at that time was $906,535. And if you could scroll to the next page, please. The purpose or goal of that funding was to be able to provide a means of sustainability for plus or minus 3 years for future budgets without having to go to the voters for additional funding in that estimated time frame. We presented 4 options to the Finance Committee at their meeting on January 29th for their consideration and recommendation. Those same options are being presented to the Select Board for your consideration and vote, with your decision becoming the final figure to be included on the ballot question and in Article 5B as well. What I want to do is I want to walk you through this spreadsheet right here.
Randy, can I have a copy of that?
Of course.
Maybe two.
Can't find anything.
There you go. Thanks, Mike. There's 5. So in this spreadsheet, you'll see that there are 20 rows. This is a 20-year history of the town's excess levy capacity, beginning in 2007 and ending in 2026. I'm going to draw your attention to what's called excess levy capacity column option 2. You'll see there that there are 20 figures totaled up. And if you take a look all the way down at the bottom, the 20-year average of those figures, those 20 figures, is $362,882. In that series of figures on line 17, there's one number in there that stands out above the others, and that's $1.7 million. So it's $1,791,564. That is a bit of an anomaly. That's the reason for that is something called the Massachusetts Student Opportunity Act, which was established in 2019. And in your packet, you'll see a memo in there. I have a limited number of copies that I can provide to the audience. But what happened was that SOA funding did not really come into play in terms of Duxbury's excess levy capacity until FY23, which is the reason for that $1.7 million bump in the 20-year average. So what I did to come up with what I thought was a more realistic expectation, a more realistic estimate, was to drop that 17th line out. So take that $1.7 million out of the equation, and then instead divide by 19 instead of 20 lines, which is the far right line called excess levy capacity option 3, and that makes the number of a 19-year average of $287,688. Did I read that correctly? I think I did. So then when we take that, and then if you could go to the next slide, please. What we did was, and then to the next one? Yeah. Thank you. And then if you can zoom in on that at all, please. I don't know if you can. So what we did is we took the 4 options and we presented them to the Finance Committee. So the first option shows you the Article 5B total override amount of $1,891,916. That's the total of 5B. Below that, under option 1, would be using 0 additional excess levy capacity. So what that would mean is the total override amount would be just that, $1,891,916. And the impact on the average tax bill would be $325, plus or minus. Option 2 is using the $362,000 figure, which is that 20-year figure, which gives you a total override amount of $2.2 million with a total tax bill of about $390. Option 3 uses the 19-year average of $287,000, making the total override just over $2.1 million, with a total impact on the tax bill for average single-family home of $377. And then option 4, just threw a number out there, $250,000, $250,000, would make the total override $2.14 million with a total tax impact of $364. When presented to the Finance Committee, they had 8 members at the meeting, and of the 8 members present at their meeting, 4 members of the Finance Committee voted for option 1, and 4 members voted for option 3. So at this point, the question now rests with the board in terms of the override. We need an option to be chosen by the board to include a number in the ballot question and ultimately Article 5B.
So just to level set everyone as to what's going on here, this is, unlike the Alden School question where we did not put a dollar figure in, the override ballot will have a specific dollar figure in it. And our purpose tonight is to calculate what that dollar figure should be. So what Rainey just laid out is in prior proposals, the override included a 1-year override plus an excess levy capacity that he just described, and gave us some options. And then I believe as part of this, Rainey, we will also be discussing 5B generally, if there are any remaining questions from the board as to the individual budget items that are in the 5B contingency budget, with the expectation, knock on wood, tonight, we should be able to settle upon a number that would then appear in the ballot.
Correct.
Any initial questions from the board? Cindy?
Yeah, I think my biggest concern, it goes back to sort of what my concern was last week, is how to explain this to the voters. It's one thing to be able to explain it during town meeting, because there's the ability for explanation, there's ability for discussion, questions, all of those things, right? But when it comes to all those other thousands of people that decide to vote, but they're not coming to town meeting, how do we explain to them what the one-year override is, the 1891, and what the excess levy capacity means? Because I think that, I mean, it's a clear distinction to me now, and I really appreciate the ability that you've given us tonight to go over it and to have it explained and to have other materials that I've been able to look at. And now I totally understand it. But it took a while, and so how do we do that? You know,
What's
that
the
was my
elevator
question-
pitch?
Huh?
What's the elevator pitch?
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, that was my question last time was, is there some way within the question, which I guess there isn't, to be able to delineate the two amounts? Or to explain to the voter in the question what they're actually voting on?
Not in the question itself,
Yeah.
that there is no advocacy allowed on a ballot to say that you would be supporting or not supporting.
Well, it wouldn't be advocacy.
And so it would be incumbent upon the town to to use whatever communication vehicles are available to us, whether it's select board meetings or notifications on our website. We don't have a dedicated communication specialist in our organization to be able to address, social media advocacy, or information sharing is probably a better way of providing it. Education, being able to meet people where they receive information is important, and we've talked about
Yeah.
that quite a bit.
Yeah.
And being able to provide short educational materials would be ideal to address exactly what you're talking about. But the reality is that the town does not have a communication specialist that is able to take on that role. So we tend to use more traditional legacy, not as technologically advanced methods, like the website for communication.
And most people aren't probably going to look at it.
Mike, go ahead.
Just to be blunt, what is the excess levy capacity for? Do we anticipate any rising costs? Is this simply a kind of a bubble, a buffer, in case there's unexpected costs? What is the excess levy capacity for? If someone asked me, why are we adding another 900,000 onto the top here?
Not 900.
So the excess levy capacity is intended for sustainability. To answer your question about do we anticipate increased costs, and the answer is absolutely yes. Every single year we anticipate costs that are rising.
Beyond the 2.5, I guess.
Beyond the 2.5. I don't think it's any surprise to anybody when we talk about things like health insurance and the crippling impact that has on not only our budget, but budgets of many, many municipalities. Rising vendor prices, we are continuing to see year over year increases from our vendors well beyond 2.5%, 5 and 10% for software alone. So do we anticipate, and utilities, we see it in our own homes, but we've got to keep the lights on in our buildings to educate our students and to have spaces for our police and fire to operate out of. We're no different, and we need to be able to absorb the impacts of those cost increases, and so that's exactly what the excess levy capacity is for. And I know people, it's a term that doesn't roll off the tongue of the layperson who doesn't deal with this on a regular basis. And it's something that's a little difficult to get behind, which is why I think the Finance Committee voted the way that they did, with a split vote. There was strong advocacy among the board to make sure that we consider an opportunity to provide future sustainability, but then it was balanced with a very real concern about how this is perceived or communicated to the public. For that very reason, we ended up with a split vote of the Finance Committee. But I think the overriding sentiment of the committee was that they really were in favor of having excess levy capacity so that we are not continually having this conversation year over year of how do we prepare a balanced budget that protects the core services of this community and fits within the constrictions of our existing revenue sources.
Does anybody have a preference that they'd like to share with any of the options?
I'll share my preference. I think after last year, I think it's important to be as lean as we can possibly be when going to the voters again. I think we've done a really good job of that. Looking at the budget, I think, we're going to go over it again. There may be still, areas that we can trim or not, but to include the excess levy capacity in an override that is for operating, I think is going to be a tough sell. And I think that after last year, I think really the residents would like us to be able to live within the constraints of 2.5, but that we know is incredibly difficult. We're trying, I think we're all trying and have been trying, but it's more and more difficult. So I think that, again, after last year and the results and the discussion and the way it turned out, I think that we'd be smart to just go for the 916. I'm sorry, the $1,891,916 without any excess levy capacity. That would be my preference.
Thank you, Amy. Who's next?
Go, Mike.
Sure.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, and I was kind of torn, and I really wanted to give Mary a shot to explain this because she wasn't here at the last meeting, and kind of, and I'm not holding you responsible for my vote, but, because I think it's important. You can explain excess levy capacity better than anybody. And I think what Mary's presented is responsible, and what we'd ask of any finance director to do is to keep us in a healthy position so that we can provide the services to the community that they expect. That being said, I think for the last 5 years here, we've seen the extraordinary impact of inflation. Many salaries just haven't reached that, and we've essentially been muscling through a service-based budget for the last 5 years, and I think we're going to probably be dealing with it for the next at least several years on a very year-by-year basis, and trying to meet people essentially somewhere they feel comfortable for a household. I also am cognizant of the fact that to put this budget together, we had to raise a lot of fees. We've raised beach, dump, transfer station, and all the mooring and other boating fees. We also raised the water fees considerably, water and sewer, and that's paying for this PFAS study that's also on the article. And now we have the Alden study too. I think where I'm at tonight is with the option one, and knowing full well that we'll probably be back at this again next year. And I think from a transparency aspect, going into a year and explaining to people where that money's going, what services are needed, I think is important to the voter. And I think they'll understand that in 2027 for the fiscal year 2028 budget. And so I know it's a lot of work for us, and I know it's hard, but these are extraordinary financial times created from COVID that we're still dealing with here, and I think we owe it to the public and to ourselves to muscle through this as best we can.
Thank you, Mike. Cindy or Fernando?
Cindy?
Go ahead.
Okay. Based on my experience last year, the participating in numerous town halls and meetings here at in this building, the most difficult thing to explain and to communicate effectively was excess levy capacity and its impact and its use, right? So I think it's really important that this override passes. We've got 2 ballot questions that are equally important that must pass. And I think we stand a much better chance of communicating to the 3,000 people that turn up to vote, that don't go to the annual town meeting. I think we can articulate clearly what the 1.8 override will bring them. It'll restore services that have been reduced. It'll increase the number of public safety employees that will provide a service in fire and police and in DPW. I think that's a far more easier explanation, the elevator speech that you can make to support the 1.8. So I want to stay away from having a debate about what excess levy capacity is and what it does. It's not easy. And so I recommend option 1, 0 additional excess levy capacity. Just go for the 1.8. We can communicate that to the community far easier. Let's get this override passed.
Well, I'm torn. I think that the excess levy capacity is important going forward. I hate the thought of having to ask the town citizens year after year for an additional. But I also think that I think getting that 1.8 is critical. And my concern, obviously, I voiced it a little while ago, was how do we explain to people? And so I guess I'd go with number 1 as well.
Right.
Reluctantly.
Well said, and I can't improve on anything any of you said. I am also firmly in camp number 1. We need to, I completely understand the rationale as to why we would have an excess levy capacity, but as was said, it's important that this gets passed, otherwise the number is 0. And I'd rather deal with this again next year if we need another override, and the voters can continue to be engaged, but let's at least take half the loaf. So that's it. That's all 5 of us. What we haven't discussed, though, is the 5B number itself, because now what we're starting with is the 1.8, let's see, where was it? 1.891916 is the 5B contingency budget. Does anybody have comments on the budget itself, which we do have in our hands? There are a number of line items in here. I know we've kicked it around a little bit, but if tonight we're going to come to a number for the ballot, we need to come to an agreement as to these individual line items. Does anybody care to call anything out, or are we satisfied with it as presented? I will have a comment, but I want everybody else to go first.
Well, thanks, Brian.
And Mr. Chairman, we do have the Finance Committee here as well to help explain what their rationale was on some of the figures as well, if necessary.
Okay, great, thank you.
And the department heads, yes, sorry.
Great.
Yep.
Any questions?
We've been through this. I see this as override light, and some of the justifications for the positions that are in there, we've already been through that. I understand them, and I support them. So I have no questions. I'm quite happy with the 1.8. It's, like I said, it's override light, and we've discussed this in great detail, and the justifications in my mind, the positions that are being restored and the positions that have been added, in my mind, are justified.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'm in the same camp. We've had a couple of meetings with presentations. I've also attended a number of finance committee meetings and heard the presentations there from the police and fire and other departments. I don't have any additional questions beyond what I asked in November and or October or whenever it was.
Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable.
I've continue to have concerns about the addition of new positions in an override budget. I have voiced my concerns. I realize I'm, odd man out up here, but town meeting has the final say as always. And perhaps folks will get up and speak to some of these positions or not. That's their prerogative. I will say that I've listened to all of the presentations on the new positions. I have, the Council on Aging is the one department that I don't have as much concern, or I have no objection to that position, because it's been demonstrated that that's a revenue-generating department, and that it is anticipated that will immediately start paying for itself. So I don't have the concerns about that position that I do about some of the other new hires, but again, that will be for town meeting to consider and vote on. So I'm ready to go ahead and, it makes no sense to vote against it. I mean, let's just get the 1.8, and then it's open for discussion at town meeting.
That's a good point, although I will raise an issue nonetheless, because I think it's important. We're talking about the importance of the override, and for the override to pass, we certainly, in deference to the taxpayers and the residents, we want to make sure that the override is as close to zero as we can get it. And I think there's room for getting it lower. And the one thing that I've talked about in the past, and I will continue to talk about, maybe I'll talk about it at town meeting if need be, is the full-day kindergarten. That's $450,000 that's not required by state law. It's not something we provide now as part of the budget, and it's being proposed here as part of the override budget. If we eliminate the 450, that would get us under $1.5 million on the override. And I think, frankly, that's a far more palatable number to the voters. I appreciate the advocacy for full-day kindergarten. I understand the reasons behind it, but I am concerned that where we don't have it today, and it's not a state requirement, including it in the override, for me anyway, is problematic, and I think we can do better. So I would propose removing the 450 from line 39, which I believe is where it is. It's 812, 946 currently. 450 of that, I believe, is the full-day kindergarten. I'm happy to hear from Finance Committee or anybody else who wants to speak to it, and then we can vote on what number we'll put into the onto the ballot. So the number I would come up with is 1,441,916, which is the general number here less the 450. Mike.
The school committee voted on their budget. They're not here. It's, they're advocating for it. It's their budget. We're in a New England form of government here where they're elected, we're elected. I would feel an incredible discomfort of lowering their budget without them even being present. Just without even having a discussion about it.
I must admit, I concur with my
That's fine.
fellow colleague.
Okay. When do we have to have this done?
By Monday.
By a week from
Like
today?
next Monday.
Can we reopen it and amend it?
No, because
Okay, it's a ballot question.
ballot question.
Well, no, from what I understand, let me verify that.
Susan's on.
Oh, is she?
Yep. Yep.
I think next Monday is your last opportunity to do that.
Next Monday would be our last opportunity, so there is another opportunity.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
Monday, the 9th is the last meeting before my deadline, as the 16th is a holiday.
Yep,
Yep. So
correct.
Monday's it.
Okay. This is a lot of money,
Okay.
and we all are aligned, I think, in that there are a number of things in here that we absolutely need, and I want to see this I want to see this successful. And I want to demonstrate to the voters, and I know we all do, that we've done our absolute best to keep this as low as possible. And if we include the 450 ultimately, that's going to be up to the voters, and if they approve it, fine. But I'm just not comfortable
Okay.
adding that at this point. But if we need to kick it a week to have that discussion, I'm happy to kick it.
I think
We
we
can
need the
kick it if
school
you
committee
want.
to
So
come
does
in.
that mean you want the school committee to attend on Monday? Or
Yeah,
whoever, a
well,
representative
Or
from the school?
representative, yeah,
Okay.
and
I mean,
superintendent.
Because we have to do the,
I know the superintendent was gonna try to make it here after the school committee meeting. I just don't see her in the room.
we've heard we've heard them present the importance of full-day kindergarten before. I mean, it's not that we haven't heard them. We've heard them. And I think, Duxbury has always been known, people have moved here for the school system. I don't have I don't have kids in the school anymore, and my grandkids are elsewhere, in Plymouth, where they have full-day kindergarten. I think it's a really important part of a kid's education, and the fact that this town doesn't provide it, I think is sort of a black mark of sorts. I would disagree. I would keep it.
Okay. Well, if I'm going to be, let me put it this way, we can short circuit it. If I'm going to be outvoted, then there's no sense in kicking it, right? And I can just let my objection
Yeah,
stand.
that's true.
I don't want to belabor the point if hearts and minds won't be changed. Mr. Weiler?
Mr. Weiler had his hand raised.
Thank you, Fred Weiler, Finance Committee, 7 Trout Farm Road. Full-day kindergarten, I think, as Cindy has pointed out, is a very important part of the educational process. Being the husband of a woman who's dedicated her life to early childhood education, I've learned a lot over the years, and a lot of things she said to me about this are, I think, ringing very true. Those younger minds develop so quickly, particularly today, and full-day kindergarten is an important part of their learning, and it helps them through the rest of their education. To put the burden of balancing our budget on the shoulders of the few families that do send their children to full-day kindergarten doesn't make sense to me. Why don't we do that to seniors? Why don't we do it to sophomores or 7th graders? The sign on the door says K through 12. We are a K through 12 program, and it's been in a long-established history in this country that public education is paid for by the community, and we're just shirking our responsibilities and not picking up that small piece of the tab. And I think it's very important that we do that, and it's not fair to those few people that have to bear that burden because we want to balance our budget. Thank you.
Before you go then, let me challenge you on that. Why is it not in the current operational budget for the schools then, if it's that important?
Well, that's the way it's been for a long time. We've tried for years to get this. I can remember town meeting 20 years ago when this came up, and it was defeated. And parents have been forced to pay tuition for something that they should have been entitled to, in my opinion. It's just my opinion. I take it from my own personal experience and just watching the process, and a lot I've learned from my wife, who I think is a very smart educator, and who's really dedicated her life to that field. She realizes how important it is. I think there's 2 questions. Do we believe in full-day kindergarten? Excuse me. And 2, who pays for it? And I think in both cases, I'm in favor of the program and the town paying for it, because I think it's their responsibility. Part of the commitment the country is based on is free public education for our children. It's the backbone of this country. It's helped us from the very beginning. And I don't think we should stop now because we have a budget problem. We should have been doing this a long time ago. So it's late in coming, in my opinion.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Maybe Mary might be able to answer this question, but my understanding is Duxbury one of the few remaining towns that doesn't pay?
I The answer to your question
Yes.
is yes. I don't have an exact number of communities, but it is a small number. In hearing the superintendent describe this on several occasions, more and more communities are funding the full cost of full-day kindergarten, and we are a select few who do not.
Okay, thank you.
Mike?
Just to your question about why don't they make it as part of their budget, they only had one budget. They didn't have a 5A and 5B. They had the one budget. So in a hypothetical world that the 5B does not pass, there's no reason they can't fund it, but they would have to make some huge sacrifices to the staff here. It kind of, and maybe I shouldn't have suggested they come here because they did vote for their budget. They are elected. I realize that our 5B is tied to the school's 5B, but this is 5 elected members, a professional putting together a budget, and from my perspective, I wouldn't be standing here tonight saying to them as elected officials, you decrease your budget. If they voted, if they came in here and re-voted and said, we want to drop 450 off, Danielle, don't do free kindergarten next year, I would have a different perspective. But here we are tonight, and they aren't here to advocate for it. They will be, and I'm sure they don't need the encouragement. They will be at town meeting to advocate for it, but also their entire budget. That's what their job is, that's what their presentations are, just like our job is to advocate for the town side, or explain it at least. And that's, so I have a real hard time just saying to an elected board, your budget is now, that you've voted on, is now less. Even if we legally have the ability to, I think the way our form of government is set up, I don't think that's the appropriate thing to do, absent their vote or re-vote.
So let me ask, let me just ask a question of Mary. So in the event we include the 5B number at 1.8 on the ballot.
Correct.
But at town meeting, for whatever reason, it comes in at some lower number. How does that affect the budget? It's the town meeting number that controls, right?
So there's 2 steps to that answer. The first is the town meeting appropriation. If it is at a reduced amount below the 1.8, that amount is what we are held to for the FY27 budget. And so we cannot increase beyond what is voted at town meeting. In subsequent years, or let me say it this way, the difference between what is on the ballot question and what town meeting appropriates will become excess levy capacity. Does that make sense?
Yep, it does. Okay.
I think we discussed that last time, that's
Yes.
exactly right.
So town meeting very well could bring up all the kindergarten issue. I agree, we have a linear form of government. I've always said that the elected boards answer to the public. They don't answer to, we're just as important as the school committee. So I would be hesitant to mess with their budget. I do think, again, at town meeting, it very well could get talked about and adjusted and amended. And that's the prerogative of the governing body, which is our residents. So that would be my position. I don't disagree with you. I think it's open for discussion, and you very well may have people who want to talk about it. And before we close this, I have one outside of the school. When you're done with that one, I do have.
That was it. That was
another
my only
question.
comment, because that was a big ticket item.
So shall
Go
we
ahead,
go
Amy.
ahead?
No, Amy's got a comment.
Well, there was one question that I wanted to bring up about the beach operations position and the salary associated with that. So it's an assistant beach op position, and it is a year-round a full-time benefit position with a annual salary starting at $90,525. How was that salary decided upon? It seems, we have a lot of hardworking people in town that aren't making that level of compensation. So I'm trying to figure out where that number came from.
So I'm going to call upon our HR director to explain our classification system and where that falls within the classification system. But just for edification on the number that you just quoted, the salary that's being budgeted is 83,000, not I'm sure, you quoted 90-something?
It's 90,525 in the override, so is there something?
Oh, there's something else in there. So the other thing that's in there is the position, but then $1 increase per hour for the,
Lifeguards, right?
Yep.
Lifeguards.
Okay.
yep,
There's lifeguards in there.
no, I'm sorry. Let's go back. The position is $83,025, and then there's $7,500 in expenses, and that is for vehicle repairs and maintenance as well as uniform replacements.
So that needs to be amended on our sheet.
The sheets are wrong.
Which sheet are you looking at?
The sheet
So
is.
should 7,500 be in the expenses line?
Yeah, it should. Yep.
No, but in the document that I have, it says 90,525, add 1 FTE for assistant beach ops manager, 83,025 year-round.
Yep.
Increase in part-time staff hours due to beach closure and escorting coverage, 7,500, so it's all salaries.
Yeah, but we're not doing that.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
That's what it says there.
Yeah, and yes, it has to be corrected.
So it'll be
Meaning,
83,000?
yeah, exactly. The salary line should read,
You're taking out the 7,500 for the part-time.
the 7,500 should go in the expense line. That's why it's
Yeah.
blank. It was transposed incorrectly. Look at the screen.
Yeah?
See up here, it's on line 80. That should say 7,500, and the number above that should say 83,025.
So, and just so we're clear, what's
Okay.
the 7,500 for?
What Mary just described, which was the vehicle repairs, maintenance, and uniforms.
Okay.
So this document that I have,
That's old, yeah.
that's old, that's incorrect then.
Yeah, I gotta fix that.
Okay.
All right, any other comments or questions from the board?
No, but could I get an answer to how that?
Oh, the job
How
classification.
it was derived, so that's just,
So-
83,000.
Yep, Jeannie, how did it land on the grade that it did? Do you want to explain the job classification process?
And I'm sure Mr. Studley as well would have something to say, right, Mr. Studley? Are you-
Yeah, no, he said it before, yeah.
There's two elements,
Yeah.
so the element the question that's being asked relates to the HR project for the classification and compensation study that was conducted last year. So as part of that study, we included new job titles that we anticipated we may need in the coming years, because we do have a compensation system, and it's important to include all factors in the system when you're conducting the study, as you have them, and it just ends up painting a clearer picture. So, as part of the classification and compensation study, that the new job title for beach operations was included. A job analysis questionnaire, or a JAQ, JAC, as they're called, was completed for that position based on the job description that was created for that position as well. So the job analysis questionnaire guides the point factor system that is used to classify the positions. So we compare all 144 jobs within our town to each other, and we create our grades and our ranges based on all of the internal and external information that we gather from the market.
we don't have an assistant beach ops person now.
Correct.
So a questionnaire was developed and answered by whom? Since
So it's a great question. This is what we do for every new position. So when we anticipate that there's going to be a new position, or in order to classify it,
we have to understand what the job duties are going to be for that position. Those job duties are used to create the job description. That's the first step. Everything's based on the job description. From the job description, the department head and the supervisor of this proposed position complete the job analysis questionnaire based on what they anticipate the job duties and the job environment will be for that individual. So there's enough inputs so that we can answer that job analysis questionnaire. And then that result is used to help slot that position into our grade system. And then HR and the consultant review it as well.
And that grade system is in your warrant under
Yeah,
Article 4.
I can see that, but it doesn't have the assistant beach ops in there.
It does. It's under, it's in grade 9, the Assistant Beach Operations Administrator. It's something that was voted last year.
It is
at
on
town
row
meeting.
36.
Oh, so that's an
Wait,
hourly
wait,
rate.
hang on a second.
It's on
The
page
assistant- the ass-
45.
It's 45, row
It's
45.
line 45
Yeah,
of
so
page
that's an
10.
hourly
Page
position.
10.
Right.
Okay, can you tell me, because I couldn't find it, I'm sure it's here, how much the beach operations administrator, what their salary is?
I don't know their salary right off the top of my head.
I mean, it's between 77,280 and 104.
I can give you what the range is.
No, I just
We have
gave you
that.
the range.
Yeah, I don't have the
I mean, this
salary
is-
off the top of my
Let me
head.
see if I can access it from here.
And I do have a question for Mr. Studley.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, what, like,
Come on up, Mike.
yeah,
I mean, Steve.
To the mic.
tell him, Mike.
No, I
Yeah, Steve to the mic.
Steve to Mike.
I know Mike Studley.
Wondering about the necessity of having a full-time assistant versus a part-time assistant. Now, I understand, like, this year, I mean, there has been years in the wintertime that you've needed some people out there more because of the owls, right? Not this year. There's no owls out there this year. And, you know, so what would a full-time assistant do during the winter?
Well, attend meetings, allow the full-timer to take vacation time that he needs to use. We monitor the beach 365 days a year. So it would also reduce, we would have that person do more on-site in this time of year, as well as training and things like that. To go to why it's full-time, I mean, I feel I stood at this exact podium and have explained this a few times, but the bottom line is, I don't disagree that in a, whatever type of world, an April 1st to November 1st person is when we're crazy and people are doing 80 hours a week. But you won't recruit the candidate to work that job. And we just found it impossible to hire someone that would fill that role that we think would be qualified.
Did we try? We didn't have an assistant position before, so how do we know that to be true?
I'm saying that I don't think, this position, we'd be looking to hire from another town a harbor master or an assistant harbor master, and I don't think a person of that quality is gonna come for an 8-month job.
But we need a harbor master to do a job of the assistant beach ops.
Or an assistant harbor master maybe that wants to work in this field, yes. It's a full-time important position.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay?
I know you've explained it before. I'm sorry to have you do it again.
You have, and I'm going to agree to disagree here. I think that, I think a year-round, full-time position being added in an override budget at this salary level for a job that really what we want is somebody between the months that you just said, but we're having to hire somebody for year-round because of whatever. I think it's concerning. So I'm going to agree, I'm going to just note for the record that I don't agree to that new position.
Any other comments from the board? Mike?
I know I've expressed my support for it only because I've seen the staff out there. These aren't just people wandering up and down the beach. Steve and Artie have collected a large number of professionals to work out there. There's a lot of complexities where we have all kinds of rules and regulations with the permit, with additional people out on the beach. This is a job, like Steve said, that you're not looking for like a kid to stand out there and kick stones. This is a full-time job. There's politics involved, there's dealing with the state, and we ask a lot of Artie, and especially during the summer months, to not hire a qualified applicant, I think is really wasteful. I mean, if we hire a part-time person, you get a part-time person. And I realize this isn't a bigger ask, but we did raise the beach fees for overstand vehicles and everything else. And I don't know what that contributes towards it, but you know, realizing that, you know, not everybody uses the beach, but a lot of people do, we've now asked the users to pay towards the costs that have increased for the beach.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there was our raising the beach sticker fee, was that to meet more 5A or 5B?
5A.
Okay, 5A.
All right. I see that we have Danielle and Lisa from the school department, not to put you on the spot, but we were talking about the school budget a little while, or at least I was talking about the school budget a little while ago in the 450 for kindergarten, half-day kindergarten.
Full-day kindergarten.
Well, the other half.
Oh, the other half, sure.
The other half, right? So full day. And the question was, and I don't think I'm going to hold it up at this point, but can you, either you, Danielle, or Lisa, explain the 450 and why it's needed for full-day kindergarten in the override budget?
And I guess another question is it in the override budget, or is you just have
Yes.
one budget that you have voted?
It is in the 5B. It's in the school department recommended budget,
Right.
The 4.83%.
the 4.83% budget. That is the amount that we currently offset with tuition funds from our families. So the $450,000 would be, we need to make up for the difference of that if we aren't charging families any longer. And there's just not an opportunity to do that without having significant cuts to our staffing. And I don't think the forecast for the future is looking any better, that we'd be able to absorb that cost in the near future without having considerable cuts to our staffing. We lost 18 positions last year. We're asking to restore 4.4 of them. And full-day kindergarten has been a priority of ours for a long time, and there just hasn't been an opportunity for us to be able to absorb those funds. So we continue to charge families, and it puts them in a tough position, and it's part of our educational program. So it's part of our 4.83. I don't know how else I can advocate for it any more strongly than we have, but kindergarten, full-day kindergarten is essential in 2026, and we're one of few communities in the state that are still burdening families for tuition. We have a number of comparable districts of the districts that are considered to be DART districts to Duxbury who don't charge any fees whatsoever.
14, right?
Well, there's 14 communities that, it's even less than that, that are still charging full-day kindergarten fees. But even within our DART districts, there are some communities that don't charge bus fees, they don't charge athletic fees, they don't charge any type of fees, and we are not in that situation. And on top of all the fees we're charging, we're also charging for kindergarten.
What's a DART district?
DART districts are what the Department of Education asks us to compare ourselves to, so that we wouldn't necessarily be comparable to Marshfield just because they're the community next door, because of the schools, population, the number of schools. And so we use the comparable districts that the Department of Ed recommends for us to compare ourselves to.
Okay.
So similar to having to raise our beach sticker prices to cover things such as a new beach ops assistant, the schools are kind of in a similar situation because there aren't a lot of revenue generating programs at the school. But the Magic Dragon comes to mind, and that's a revenue-generating program. Does that program pay for itself completely? And if not, is there an ability to raise the fees associated with that to cover some of the other costs?
So Magic Dragon is self-funded, and none of the school department operating budgets go towards Magic Dragon. And so they raise their fees each year to make sure that they're able to fund their staffing. So we don't receive any kind of profit from Magic Dragon.
So so that program is kind of self-contained in and of
Yes.
itself, so you can see but yet they utilize the space at the school, and what about the teachers? Are they part of?
The teachers are, everyone that works for Magic Dragon is a Magic Dragon employee. And
Okay.
so they utilize the facility. It's almost as though it's a independently run daycare center running through the school department. So they do pay us fees in terms of using the building, but it's a cost-neutral program that's a benefit to the staff who are able to come back to work because their children attend. It's open to families in Duxbury and beyond. It has a wait list, so that's fully operational program that's self-funded. We have our integrated preschool is what is run within the school department, and that is different than Magic Dragon. So our integrated preschool program is for students with special education needs starting at age 3, and we accept peer models into that program. So we charge tuition for our preschool program that we're able to use some of the peer model funds to offset the operating budget, but Magic Dragon is
So
separate.
there's no way to raise the revenue from there to offset some of the cost? Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Danielle.
Welcome,
Are
thank
there any
you.
comments from the public before we vote on a number? Anybody online? Okay, thanks. May I have a motion?
I move that the select board vote the following, to add the levy limit override ballot question to the annual town meeting on election on Saturday, March 28, 2026. The question shall read as follows. Shall the town of Duxbury be allowed to assess an additional $1,891,916 in real estate and personal property taxes for the purposes of funding the operating budgets of the town and the public schools for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2026?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries 5-0. All right. Do we need to close the warrant? Is there anything else we need to add to the warrant?
Are we doing,
We're doing recommendations, but I don't think there's anything else to add to the warrant, right?
No, that was it. You can, if you want to do recommendations, if you want to hear from people, you can. You can close it now. I can put the recommendations in later. It's better to do it while it's open, though, if you've got people here. It's
Okay, so we'll
cleaner.
leave it open.
Yeah.
By a show of hands, who's here for the Community Preservation Act matters? Bunch of people.
I would definitely do that.
So why don't we start with who's here for other matters that are on the warrant you'd like to speak to? All right, I think CPC wins. And I know CPC was at FinCom late last night, so maybe well, I guess it's late tonight, too. Sorry.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
I do have somebody that has a question. I will allow them to talk. It just says iPhone, so I don't know who it is.
okay.
Says what?
all right, iPhone, go ahead with your question.
I think this is me. Siobhan Pernick, Chestnut Street. I had a question on, it's line 18, the battery energy storage systems. I don't understand why that's on the warrant yet if the planning board has not even made a decision and it's not even, bylaw has not even been approved, amended, what they're going to ask until next week.
All right.
I don't know how you can put that on a warrant if the planning board doesn't even know what the amendment is going to be.
Yeah, Mrs. Pernick, Mr. Reed will respond to that question.
Hi, Siobhan. They had asked to have that put on the annual town meeting warrant, so we did. If it needs further amendment, it will be. It was originally a placeholder, but then they gave me the final language to be included, and there it is. So again, if it needs amendments from the floor or anything like that, they can certainly be made.
I also want to ask why we are even proposing any amendment if there are bills at the State House by our Representative Swayze that are going to outlaw these things coming in towns like us, potentially outlawing. Why are we even proposing when 6 months last year, 6 months, summer, in the western part of our town, there was an absolute uproar. Now you want to allocate districts in our town that are the most congested, the most widely used, the most amount of people, and you're proposing to put this type of facility? Did we talk to the fire department about this? One of the areas is Hall's Corner. One of them is down in Snug Harbor. You want to put a battery facility that is so dangerous, so intrusive into, and one of the other proposed areas is the school. What are you going to do when one of these things goes on fire near the school, or in the middle of Hall's Corner, or down at the
Mrs. Pernick,
Maritime School?
Mr. Reed will answer the question, but I don't believe we're going to get to this one tonight, so I think we can table this discussion. But Mr. Reed, go ahead with the...
I appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. Siobhan, those are questions that would be best suited to the planning board, and I'm sure they'll be happy to answer them, because I know they've had hearings on this, and they'll probably be having additional ones. So I would,
But why is it on the warrant if we haven't made a final decision?
That's up to the planning board.
Absolutely putting the cart before the horse.
Yep.
Again.
Like I said- like I said,
Fernando said about, we haven't even considered the operating budget, and you already, it's just, again, another year of putting the cart before the horse, and when are we ever gonna learn?
well, respectfully, the select board did review the operating budget, both 5A and 5B. They did that on December 15th. So that's been thoroughly vetted. They've done it again tonight. With respect to the BESS project, that, again, would be best suited to the planning board. Thank you.
We have people here that are.
So what we're going to do is, we've got a bunch of folks here on the, thank you, Mrs. Pernick, for the question. CPC is what we're going to go with right now. Do we have, is Mrs. Morris here? Or Mr. Carpenter? Go right ahead. Tag, if you can introduce yourself and give us an overview of the CPC articles, and I know you've got some proponents here as well.
Yep, thank you. Tag Carpenter, 267 Summer Street, Vice Chair of the CPC. I'm here to present these series of CPC articles for your discussion and consideration. I prefer actually that as far as the details of any project, if we have a proponent here that they speak to, I'm here with the numbers and the general introduction.
Okay, well, we can certainly start with the operating funds and allocations, numbers 23 and 24.
Yep. And these are standard. Every year we do these for CPC. They're basically the terms of the law from the state, where the first operating fund article is for 5% allocation. Up to 5% of the general funds can be used for, basic operating and administrative expenses. And so the estimate for this year is $117,295. And we'll point out that of that amount, any unexpended amount is returned to the general fund. And so these are things that are generally necessary expenses over the course of the year, particularly as we get to the end of the year and the applications come in and we need to invoke services, or during the year if we have a purchase of land or something like that, where there are fees in order to support putting together an article. So that's pretty standard.
Hey, Tag, can I make a modification? So the number that is being proposed for this year is slightly different than what you just quoted?
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have
and
the brief?
I do, so do you mind if I
Sure, please correct me if
project
these numbers are,
something?
because they are a little fluid sometimes.
Okay.
This is the best information
So
I have.
we just went through these last night, and I'm going to share my screen and show two different things. So this is going to be the motion for Article 23. The total amount that we are asking to appropriate for the operating budget is $314,963. That is comprised of the 5% that Tag was just referring to for administrative expenses in the amount of $120,138. And then we need to make a provision or an appropriation to cover the debt service for the existing debt on the Harrington and Pink properties that we are paying. That annual debt service for FY '27 is $194,825. So those two numbers add up to the 314, and that is what we are asking to appropriate in Article 23.
Yeah. Thank you for correcting me, sorry about that.
No worries.
Right, any questions on Articles 23 or 24? No. The board?
Nope.
All right.
And then
23.
That was 23.
Oh,
24 is the standard 10%
yeah,
allocation.
I thought I saw that up there, didn't I?
That's 24.
So this would be dedicating the 10% of our estimated revenues to those three designated reserves within CPC for a total of $723,825.
And that's an administrative task required by law.
Correct.
Yep.
Under CPA, just explanation for the public, it's dedicated for general community preservation, but they directed that investment to the communities in three particular categories: historic preservation, housing, affordable housing, and open space and recreation. And the statute requires that each town pre-allocate 10% of the total every year into each of those categories.
Yep.
And that money will just sit there in that category until it's expended at some point in the future.
All right. May I have a motion on Articles 23 and 24?
I just have a question.
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
What's in the bank accounts? We
I knew you were going to ask that question. I'm so
keep
glad Mary
putting
is
money
here.
into these
We did
reserves.
receive a very good,
Do you mind if I share my
Reimbursement
screen
today.
real quick? Sorry, Nancy. You and I are gonna bounce around, and I will show you. Okay, fantastic. So to answer so this is the estimated budget for '27, which we just talked about, did the appropriations in Articles 23 and 24. So there are 4 reserves when it comes to CPC. There is the undesignated fund balance, and then the 3 reserves: open space, historic preservation, and affordable housing. So the estimate let me walk you through the calculation. As of June 30, 2025, the undesignated fund balance was $3.03 million. We added in an estimated $1.2 million for CPC surcharges that we are going to be collecting this year that we are currently in, which gives us an adjusted balance of about $4 million, 4.296. We then had appropriations from the undesignated fund balance at last year's town meeting, so we're working on those right now. So that brings it down to 4.17, and we are estimating that we are going to bring in 1.3 million into the undesignated fund balance category. So by the end of FY '27, we are anticipating that there will be $5.5 million available in the undesignated category. For the other 3, they're listed down here. Walking through the calculations, the estimated ending fund balance or available fund balance for open space will be $809,000. The available fund balance for historical will be $925,000, and the available for affordable housing will be $1.22 million, those numbers in column K. So that is the budget that the CPC has been given before the projects that you're going to hear about this evening. Does that make
Does that
sense?
answer the question, Mike?
Yes, it does, thank you.
Okay.
Excellent. I move that this,
I was going to ask, are there any other questions? No. Great, go right ahead.
I move that the Select Board supports and recommends the approval of March 14th, 2026 Annual Town Meeting Articles 23 and 24 as presented.
Operating fund and
Yeah, okay.
allocations.
Second.
Articles 23 CPC Operating Fund and Article 24 CPC Allocations as presented.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries 5-0. Article 25, this is Ellison Playground surfacing.
This is the resurfacing portions of the Ellison Playground, which is the playground next to the library. This is a very dynamic project, and I know Steve is here, that, I don't know if you're willing to speak to this, but I can give you the general gist of it. The surface is wood chips, it's hazardous, difficult, and we've replaced a portion of it with a rubber firm surface. and it's an ADA access requirement. This project was originally proposed to do an additional small portion to extend a pathway, and we asked Steve, would it make sense to really just tackle the whole thing? Is it more cost-effective to do that? And I think that's where we've landed, so. Sure.
I thought we already appropriated funds to do a portion of it.
Yeah, that was through the Ellison Fund.
Oh,
Yeah, it's been an ongoing project for the past few years. The poured rubber surfacing is quite expensive. And the only way I saw it getting done potentially was in phases, so that was what we thought was the best way. I worked with the playground architect to go around the entire facility and see, because what he explained to me, basically pretend this whole room was the playground. It makes no sense to pour poured rubber in every nook and cranny of it because the stuff is so expensive. So what I was asking for originally from CPC, as it says up there, is $26,000, which was going to be another small phase that would go from one apparatus to another. When Holly and the committee asked me to go back and work with the company and see what it would be to do the entire place and make it all ADA compliant and handicap accessible, as well as strollers and other mobility devices, the plan that's drawn up, which is not up there now, but it's basically, if you can think of like almost an amoeba surrounding the entire playground with parts coming in and out of everything and connecting it to everything. So that number of $26,000 was to do, sorry, I don't hit the mic, I have the exact numbers here, 690 square feet of poured rubber, and that was going to be $26,000. And that was approximately $38.50 a square foot. If we do the entire project and then we'll be complete, it's 5,192 square feet, which will cost $137,900, but that square footage comes down to $26 a square foot. So therefore, doing it all at once right now would be a savings of almost $70,000 at the current price of the rubber. If I'm to do this in phases over the next 5 years, the poured rubber's not gonna get cheaper. It's gonna continue to go up. So it'll probably be a price saving $100,000 if we can do the whole project like right now. And I was just informed that New Hampshire has made it official. We're kind of grandfathered in with the wood chips as far as being ADA, but that's gonna be going away quick. New Hampshire was just told they have an X amount of time to get rid of them. So it's coming anyway, and it's the way it should be.
Any questions for Mr. Studley?
No, the CPC's, well, no, yes, I guess.
I'm
we're-
meeting with them tomorrow morning at 8:30. They're
So
gonna
it has-
vote whether to move forward with this or not.
Oh, so we don't have their vote yet, so shouldn't we wait for the
Nancy?
CPC recommendation?
Ms. Rufo?
Hi, Nancy Rufo, Conservation Administrator. CPC did vote the original number, the 26,300. They voted at 6-0, but the revised number, they're going to vote in the morning at 8:30.
So we should look at this later.
Do you want to hold off on this one?
Well, do we,
Is anything
We're
gonna change?
respectful to wait
Yeah.
for their
no, I
vote.
know, but
Nothing's
we're
gonna
not
change.
voting the number, are we?
Yes.
Are we? Did you vote the number last night?
We were waiting for them.
Oh,
Yes.
all right.
So Steve,
I thought we were just voting the, like,
Steve will go to FinCom tomorrow night. So
Okay.
CPC will vote it in the morning, and then FinCom will take this one up
Okay.
in the
So,
evening.
so which of the
It's
remaining,
4 times the money,
no, I agree, I
the
just
first
wanna,
amount. It's a lot of money.
so which of the remaining CPC articles have not been voted by CPC?
Just this one.
Just this one, all right.
Okay.
So we'll continue this one to next meeting.
Yeah.
okay.
All right, thank you, Nancy. Let's then move to the King Caesar House wallpaper restoration, CPC, Article 26. Mr. Carpenter.
All right, I'll introduce this one, and again, I don't know if you'd like to speak to it, or? Okay. This is a request for $60,000, which is
How much?
$60,000.
60
Yep.
or 6?
60.
60, all right.
6-0 for wall?
0,000.
Okay.
It's
You-
pretty
the,
wallpaper.
Have you been in the King Caesar House? Have you seen it, the wallpaper in the King Caesar House?
I have not.
Oh, well, that's, yeah. I had the same reaction until I saw it, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's beautiful, it's just, that's an awful lot of money.
This is
Or-
Duxbury
an
Roland
override.
Historical Society, King Caesar House. The wallpaper is hand-painted from France from 1818, and it covers the 4 walls and the 2 front parlors. The house, of course, is an old structure, subject to all the wear and tear that the old structures have, and the King Caesar House has, DRHS has made the investments in order to put climate control in place so that, further degradation of the interior materials won't occur. But now the damage that has occurred over the many years, is something that they wish to address. So I would like to have the proponents speak to this, but I want to make the point that this is only a very minor fraction of the overall expenditure of the project. The town's not being asked to foot the bill, so to speak.
All right. So, Ms.
Did the
Kaplan.
CPC vote in favor of this project?
4-1.
They voted?
4-1.
4-1.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you. Yes, so
Sabrina, if you can just introduce yourself for the.
I'm Sabrina
record.
Kaplan. I am the director of the Duxbury Rural and Historical Society. I'm also a resident on Franklin Street. So you did have a slide that was created out of my slideshow. Up here, we are requesting $60,000, which is approximately 24% of the overall project cost for assistance in rehabilitating the front two parlors of the King Caesar House, which, as you know, is a historic house museum on King Caesar Road in Duxbury. We serve the community in myriad ways. We have about 1,000 visitors to that house per year, 200 and some odd of which are Duxbury third graders. We offer field trips and enrichment programming for free to Duxbury Public School students on the order of about 1,500 per year across our different facilities. So this project is wallpaper, but it is essentially murals that cover the entire two front parlors of the house. And it's been deteriorating for approximately 200 years. So if you are able to look at the slides, you can see the ways in which that's happening. It's flaking, it's chipped, it's buckled in certain places. And this is wallpaper that was installed by the Westons in approximately 1820 after the construction of the house. So it is essentially original to the home and incredibly rare in that. It's also instructional, and it's an educational tool that we use. One of the rooms, this scene here is Pizarro conquering the Incas, and so that is a conversation starter with our tours and our visitors and our students, having to do with morals and values and tastes, and I could go on and on. You probably don't want me to. And the other one is a French pastoral scene. That's the next slide, and that is also an instructional tool that we use, a conversation starter having to do with the Enlightenment and values and what the Westons would have been trying to portray of themselves and what it is that anyone portrays of themselves when they display art around them or in their home. So we are looking to restore it. The continued degradation of this resource, which is essentially, both of these wallpapers are basically among our most valuable assets in our collection. It would really be the decline of a significant portion of the house, to be honest, because again, they are murals in all four rooms. They also represent a form of artwork and craft that is historic as well. So, to the cost, we have recently installed an HVAC system. We paid for that with a bequest we received in the house. That was started in fiscal year 2025 and just finished in January. So that cost the DRHS about $70,000. We've put $20,000 into stabilizing some of the most critical spots in the two rooms. That's in our fiscal year 2026
'26 budget. And actually, we've started that work. And beyond that, we are looking for donations. We will solicit donations to help complete the project, hopefully along with CPA funding in the coming year. And in order to educate the public, we are also inviting anyone to come to open houses ahead of town meeting on Saturday, March 7th and Thursday, March 12th. Our historian will be there to talk about the history of the house in general, of course, and the mural wallpaper and how it came to Duxbury. And our collections manager will be there to talk about the process. Again, it's highly specialized work. We found a firm that's kind of the only firm regionally to do it. And she'll talk about their process, which I can discuss with you if you'd like to.
Questions from the board? Amy?
So $60,000 is a lot. That's a lot of money. I have some questions about, so using taxpayer money to do these kind of projects, I'm wondering, what is the King Caesar House open to the public free of charge certain days of the year, or what?
Absolutely,
how is
yeah.
this?
We, our tours are free. They had been free for members for a long time, and membership is, it doesn't come at a high cost, and we have we have over 600 households in Duxbury that are members.
But what about non-members? What about
Non-members
if it's
can
resident?
come for tours. That's typically Thursdays and Fridays throughout the summer months. Although now that I'm actually having to shift my frame of mind of the house, because now that we have HVAC, we don't have to be so seasonal, which is pretty exciting for our organization. And again, we offer field trips. We have every third grader comes at this point to the King Caesar House. Every fifth grader goes to Bradford House. Multiple different grade levels go to the archives. So across our different sites, we offer free enrichment programming to approximately 1,500 Duxbury Public School children on an annual basis. So our organization, this is a project that's specific to one of our locations, and it is, I believe, in the historic preservation vein, which is the purpose of CPA funding, or one of them. And yes, it's our mission to share. That's the mission of the
So
Duxbury
I
Rural
just want to make
Historical
sure,
Society.
again, where we're asking the taxpayers to utilize their funds is, so you're saying that the King Caesar House is open on Thursdays and Fridays to the public free of charge for tours. Okay, thank you. I did have one. And then where we're using this amount of money, up in the $60,000 range, is there no requirements as to going out for bid and RFQs and those kinds of constraints that we're under for this type of work?
So my guidance from Holly and the CPC was that where this is such highly specialized work, and there are so few people that do it, once we found a firm that does it and that we were comfortable with, that those requirements were, that was not required.
And we're gonna verify that with council.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Thank you. Any other questions from the board?
Go ahead.
I can
Yeah,
speak
go
to
ahead.
that a little bit as well, and it's just reinforcing your point that when you get into highly specialized services, even if you do an RFP and multiple rounds of procurement, you really only get the one bidder because they're the only people that are qualified. This is a very rarefied field, so it's not a matter of doing anything anti-competitive or antitrust or anything. It's just a matter of the market, who's available, who can do this work.
I just want to make sure that we're
I like
within
your idea.
the laws. Thank
We'll
you.
get you.
Thank you.
I just want to point out that as far as historic preservation goes, overall, the entire CPA fund in the state, 9.7% of the historic preservation funds are awarded to nonprofit organizations such as the Rural Historical Society. It's a fairly common pattern.
That's helpful, thank you. And I appreciate, Sabrina, the detail, because when I first read this, I thought it was like running down to Home Depot and grabbing rolls of wallpaper. So this is restoration of 200-year-old
Can we do that?
artwork.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. Yes, this is
So-
hand-blocked wallpaper, as in carvers in France in the early 1800s carved hundreds of little blocks to create the murals that are on the walls of this house that are
Okay.
deteriorating.
So maybe we should be calling it, not wallpaper, but a mural or something that's more appropriate. Since the warrant's open, perhaps we want to just title it, because this will be an important discussion for town meeting as well, because if I had that impression, I'm sure others do too when you read wallpaper.
Okay.
Well, I don't know, but I mean, it's important, and to Amy's point, it's a lot of money. I do think it is historic preservation, for which we have the CPC to begin with. But Amy makes a good point that in exchange for the public funds, that there's some public use. And you've explained that there is, and certainly we're well aware of DRHS's partnership with the town overall, and the Harbor Walk, and there's plenty of public benefit that we're getting from the organization. I know it's a different site, but overall, I think there's justification for use of the money, and we'll talk about whether 60 is the right number. Any other points, because we do have a lot to go through still. Okay, anything else you want to add before we take a vote? Okay, may I have a motion?
I just amplify the point. When people think of wallpaper, they think of a repeating pattern
Right.
in the closet. This is not that at all.
Right, and we'll just need to clarify that at town meeting, for sure, and just show exactly what this is, and it's not.
And
not what
I
you're
do
thinking
hope
of.
people will come to see it. The entire CPC committee came and saw that it is two murals that can constitute two full rooms. I
And
mean,
make sure the Clipper knows.
I've,
All right,
Yes,
okay.
okay.
All right, so you're asking us to vote recommending this to town meeting tonight? That's what we're doing?
Yes.
Correct.
And what were the other committees' votes on this? Do we have those?
The Royal Historical Society had their annual meeting on Tuesday, so they were unable to present. They'll be coming on Thursday.
But CPC was 4-1, right?
CPC 4-1,
Yes.
correct?
So Finance Committee hasn't voted on this yet, and historically, we do wait to see what they're voting.
No, I think the select board can vote. Why?
It's a select board moving forward.
I think it's a separate, this is select board.
All right, go ahead.
Yep. I move that the select board supports and recommends the approval of March 14th, 2026 annual town meeting, Article
26.
Article 26, King Caesar House mural
mural
restoration, and in the sum of $60,000 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay, motion carries
Thank you very much.
5-0.
Certainly, if
All
you
right,
find
thank you,
something,
Sabrina.
we'll bring it back.
Next is CPC Article 27, Affordable Housing Trust Administrative, this is administrative funding. Okay, is Dan, Dan's here.
Dan's
Okay.
here, yeah.
Dan, is there anything you'd like to contribute to this, or let Tag steal the show?
I have questions.
Mr. Coughlin, if you can just introduce yourself for our record?
Dan Kaufman for the Affordable Housing Trust.
All right.
I almost started a wallpapering company a minute ago.
Very profitable, sir.
Have a good one.
Nancy, can you put up that slide that we had? Essentially, not essentially, the request is for $50,000 from the CPA, from the Affordable Housing Trust segment, to be used for the retention of a consultant and consultants to help us with the, shall we say, the vetting of all of the different projects that we have right now. The genesis of this article really comes from the housing production plan that was completed last year and that this board approved, that advocated for a full-time housing administrator for the town. Recognizing that that's not a fiscal possibility, this year, next year, or probably, for some time to come, if at all. The thought was that we hire a consultant or a series of consultants who could help us with the various tasks
associated with the different projects that we have. Now, it's a little hard to see up there, but the first item is, for instance, a Laurel Street project that we have where we have a consultant who will be able to help us with the RFP. The intention of that RFP is to develop, hopefully, some assisted living housing for the town. Another item, the second item on our agenda is an odd lot property review. We've identified 100 properties in town that could possibly support individual units of affordable housing. We've narrowed it down to 4, and we've asked that consultant to go out and to look at those 4 and tell us whether or not they in fact would fit the criterion, and would be possible for us to then come back to the CPC with a recommendation to acquire those properties. Now, that would be at a subsequent, at a town meeting. And the third item is, on the list is our East Street property that we have under RFP right now, and we have a lot of work to be done there. Consultant is helping us there, and there's a lot of legal review associated with getting that done. Just those 3 projects alone would constitute about a $52,000 price tag. They're the first 3 priorities we have. The balance of that list shows you the next 3 and then the last 6 that we have in our 12-item wish list. And we would expect, frankly, to come back next year and ask for another 40, 50, somewhere around there, to justify the next items that we have on our list. But important to note here is that the work being done on each of these projects will have the end result of either helping us to identify individual locations and units of affordable housing, and we would ultimately come back and make a request for perhaps a contribution from the CPC to help fund the acquisition of some of those properties, which ultimately would be developed and sold to a developer, and the funds returned to the CPC. So again, if we're successful in executing on all of these things, we will be coming back with individual discrete items that we'll ask for the CPC's acknowledgement of. And as you heard, there is a significant amount of capital in the housing escrow, if you will. And so there is an opportunity there, I think, for us to do some good work here, to push these items across the table, to get things done, and to make some, real strides towards individual, affordable housing units across the town. So that's, in essence, what we're asking is $50,000 so we can continue to keep this good and important work going.
Amy?
So are you seeking funds from your own bucket of money?
We have been seeking money. We have,
So is this 50,000 coming from your bucket? Because you're being allocated and you have money in your
this is a new
kitty.
allocation we're requesting for, from the CPC.
So is it part of your yearly allocation that you're looking to draw from, or is this a separate and above amount?
No, this would be from the yearly allocation that the CPC is, as Mary outlined earlier, 10% of the amount that we have
Right.
every year goes into that, I'll call it a housing escrow. We're asking for $50,000 out of that housing escrow.
So you're taking it out of your own bucket?
Right.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
thank you.
Right, it's not just an open checkbook. that they
No,
can
that's
dip
what I'm-
into. Yeah,
Yeah, they have the money in there.
right.
Yes.
It's not.
They will have an
addition-
estimated $1.2 million
Right.
in that affordable housing bucket after putting in that
I
allocation.
would note also that this year we had 2 years ago, we had an allocation of $100,000 for the housing production plan to be done. That plan was done for $22,000, and $78,000 has just been returned, to the CPC housing bucket, if you will. So we're, hopefully, been able to do that well and, add it back into that bucket. So we're asking for
deal.
$50,000 back to be able to continue this work.
Questions from the board?
Thank you very much.
So this
No,
money will help advance the housing production plan.
Right.
Yep.
Well,
Right? Another,
And provide valuable resources that the Affordable Housing Trust needs.
that's one of the central uses of CPC.
Yep.
May I have a motion?
I move that the Select Board supports and recommends the approval of March 14th, 2026 Annual Town Meeting Article 27, Affordable Housing Trust Administrative Funding, as
Second.
presented.
Second.
We have motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
Number 28, CPC, DCF, and Brooks Athletic Fields, investigation, testing, and planning.
This is a request in the amount of $90,860. It will be presented to FinCom tomorrow. This is a product project to characterize and understand what's going on under the fields in front of the Steel Center. That's the, as we all know, I hope, the site of the old high school. When the high school was demolished, a lot of the demolished material, as we understand it, may have been disposed on site. So the question of these fields, which are heavily used and are resting a lot of the time because they're so heavily used, need work, but we're not sure what work we can even do at this point because we don't know what's under the ground. So the main thrust of this article is to do the engineering work, survey work, et cetera, to do a little digging, literal digging, figure out what's possible in that area of the world. And then from there, develop a recreation development plan, which will consider the options that are potentially could be used there, reconfiguration of the fields, different fields, things like that.
So who's the proponent? Who's asking for this? The schools?
Yeah, go ahead. This is the recreation.
It is school property.
Is this a school project?
It's a school property.
Mr. Thawley, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for our record?
Drew Thawley, West Street. The Duxbury Recreation Collaborative is a 501c3 nonprofit who is in partnership applying to CPC for this funding. The Duxbury Recreation Collaborative is an organization that was formed by all of the youth sports in town to first assess, well, it was formed for a number of reasons, but part of which was to assess current field conditions throughout the town. So we invested about $44,000. I've been in front of you before to do a townwide study to determine, what are the conditions. Anecdotally, we thought they were really bad, and it was determined that in fact they are really bad and they're going to get worse. At the time when I presented before, it was more of a we wanted to inform you of the work that we were doing, and it was a very broad analysis that looked all over the whole town. This is very focused on, we understand why the fields are overused. We understand the increase in usage anticipated. We know how many homes, how many kids, how many hours we spend on these fields. What we don't know is, in order to improve these are the highest use fields that we've got. In order to improve the conditions, we need to understand what's going on under the ground. As it was stated, this is the site of the old school. So we need to do pit testing in the summer when the fields are more or less used, so it's not as disruptive. Do pit testing around the site to figure out what is there, and then from there, it's time to prescribe actual solutions to improve the conditions. So we don't know since they put the grass there, a lot has changed in just natural turf advances. So it's very likely that there are natural turf solutions that would far outperform the solution that's in place right now, but we don't know what we're working with underneath. So that's what this is for. It is part of a much bigger project, and all of our youth sports have already invested a bunch of money in advancing this. So we're coming to CPC within their prerogative to impact the quality of the recreational experiences in town. That's the vein in which this is coming through. So this would have fallen into that bucket.
Questions?
Of course,
So-
I have a question. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So $90,000 to drill some test pits in the summer, and then which seems a lot, but okay, I'm not sure, I'm not a geologist, I don't know what those test pits are going to show, but apparently they're gonna show the soil conditions, or if there's materials that have been buried in there that shouldn't be.
What you're really looking for is drainage capacity. What can the site handle? There are the site was actually originally supposed to end up as turf fields. And when they disposed of the old building, in that process, they ran low on funding. So the project was.
I remember it well.
Yeah, so that's, since then, technology has advanced a lot, and we don't necessarily know that we need that as a solution. But we don't know what the sand structure is and all that stuff. To your point, yes, it's drilling to figure out what's down there, but there's more in the 90,000 than just the pit testing. So in the in the 90,000, we've got about 44 of it
is reviewing current conditions, topographical survey, and subsurface geotechnical investigation. So that's the part that you've summarized, basically, right?
Yep.
Then the remaining 47 is to really start to look at what do solutions look like. So program verification meeting, stakeholder and abutter opportunities to talk to the neighbors, athletic surfacing and material review. So this is where we discuss and learn about what the options may be, design development and documents. So then we move into kind of like design and solution finding from there. So this would be funding the first two phases, which are really the investigatory and exploration phases. Then once a strategy would be adopted, then we go into phase 3 and 4, which would be more planning and getting more detailed numbers about what the actual project cost would be.
And would this be subject to competitive bids because it's not a specialty? So yes, so we'll be able to at least get the best price out there for this scope, I would hope.
Presumably, yeah.
It's all our money. Thank you.
We have a firm that we have worked with so far that helped us scope the next few phases, but if we have to put it out, we have to put it out.
Any other questions? Thank you, Drew.
You're welcome.
May I have a motion?
I move, sorry, let me just
28.
word that, yeah. I move that the Select Board supports and recommends the approval of March 14, 2026 Annual Town Meeting, Article 28, DCF and Brooksfield Athletic Field Investigation, Testing and Planning, as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 5-0. All right, Mr. Carpenter, next is number 29, CPC DiLorenzo Barn Construction. Saw Farmer Amanda we have here this evening, who's been doing a lot of work.
Yeah, I'll just
Both
introduce-
on the farm and elsewhere.
Chuck, we have, as you know, the De Lorenzo Farm, which was funded by CPA for agricultural use. And the farmer has been working diligently there, getting it up and running, and this is an ongoing part of that process. The request is for $80,000, 80. The CPC requested that they add a 15% contingency to bring the total to $92,000. And this is for construction placement of a livestock barn on the property.
We have a, oh yes, we do. There we go. Amanda, if you can introduce yourself for our record, please.
Amanda Maximchuk, 1216 Franklin Street, right around the corner from this property. I am co-owner of the Foul Play Farm and Misbehaving Business. And when we heard about the request for proposal for redeveloping the historic DiLorenzo Farm property to its historic agricultural use, we decided to jump on it. The vision that we have is very much in alignment with what the Conservation Commission and Agricultural Commission have for this piece of property. As quoted from the proposal, we signed a lease agreement in 2022 with the town through its Conservation Department and in conjunction with the Duxbury Agricultural Commission, who sought proposals to farm town land owned for agricultural use and on all or a portion of approximately 10 acres located at 370 Summer Street. The town identified a need to support local farmers and to assist them with creating a successful working farm with the intent to enter into a partnership with one or more farmers to restore the property to original farming heritage. Next slide, please. All right, the challenges with this piece of property, of course, the farmer who's actually actively farming this day in and day out now, this is his full-time job, this is my part-time job. Saw a vision with this piece of property that had no irrigation, no electricity, no fencing, no buildings. There was a trash pit and refuse that needed to be removed, and most of the property that was supposed to be open field was overgrown. So, in spite of these challenges, we took this on and submitted an RFP. Next slide, please. And since then, working with Conservation, Conservation has spent a significant amount of money already to install 2 wells on the property. So we're on our start to irrigation, clearing an area for produce fields, spent money to have selective tree removal for developing an area of silvopasture as part of the regenerative agricultural practices that we plan on using and are using at the property, and purchase fencing for protection of the on-site wetlands, trash removal, road improvements, and that sort of thing. Next slide, please. For the past 3 years, Brett Sovic has been dedicating every day of his life to developing this into a farm. There were areas that were cleared for produce fields. There are 2 high tunnels on the property now. One has been certified for use to extend our growing season.
Can you just explain what that is?
High tunnel is a large greenhouse. So it traps the heat in, gives you an opportunity to grow cold weather vegetables and start your growing season a lot sooner. In addition to that, we've been using the hay field for our pasture-raised meats. We did 450 meat chickens 2 years ago, a little bit less this past year. We added turkeys to the mix, sold out. We sell out of our pasture-raised eggs on a daily basis. And we had one of the produce fields, thanks to help from our volunteers and the help of H. Cole Club, who did Sunday suppers at the farm this past season. We had restored one of the agricultural fields, and we're actually making produce on those fields and bringing them to the farmers markets. In addition to that, we've hosted 7 agritourism events in 2025, provided pop-up stands, which the community absolutely loved because they want to have a farm market right around the corner from their houses instead of having to go to surrounding areas. We had the high school post kids coming to the farm on a weekly basis to help out with part of the restoration and planting things. They planted our garlic last year. We've had multiple scout events on the property, and we even have our first Eagle Scout project, which was finished. They finished construction just recently, and we now have 3 ADA accessible beds on the property. We still are meeting with challenges, though. I'll keep this short because I know it's been a long night for most people already. And one of those is the fact that we have livestock and poultry on the property that have good temporary housing. We have a lot of mobile housing that we've brought to the property. We've built mobile coops. We've brought movable fencing. But we need something more permanent for them in the wintertime and also for breeding the sheep and for sheep's milk, because we do have a local demand for that as well. So these are some before and after pictures. You can see the produce fields being cleared by the person who did the silvopasture as well. That lower picture shows how overgrown it was. And then on the right-hand side, you can see that there is the early photos of the produce field, the high tunnel that's been certified and built. The other day when it was 18 degrees outside, it was 62 degrees in the high tunnel, which was really nice. And you can see our pasture-raised egg laying chickens in that lower picture there. They move through the silvopasture on a regular basis, and also pictures of the turkeys. So we're applying for CPC funding for one of the structures that was in our proposal in our response to the RFP. The 3 orange blocks that you see in the center of the screen are going to be the 3 produce fields, the ones already developed. The one in the middle is where the high tunnels are. The third one is to be developed this year and going into next year. And in the left-hand corner, you see that light green spot, and you see three structures. One of those structures is the barn that we're proposing, and that barn's going to be something that's useful for us as well as future farmers who lease the property from the town. And it can be used for livestock, it can be used for equipment storage, hay storage, and it will help us to develop the property further and make it more valuable to us and anybody else who farms it in the future.
Questions, Amy?
So I'm really familiar with this property. I was very good friends with Linda DiLorenzo and her husband Lenny before they passed away, and I was part of conversations when she talked about wanting to get into a relationship with the town, and I also was on this board when there was quite a bit of opposition to the farming aspect. People in that area, when there was a farming component, it wasn't just purchasing the open space, but, you know, there was the farming component that was put into it. There was quite a few people who raised concerns, and luckily it passed at town meeting. But during those discussions, issues like structures were brought up. They were concerned that, you know, things would be built on the property. And so I think, I don't know whether it's in the lease or in some documents, it restricts what can be built there, I believe.
There's a
and-
conservation restriction on the property, and there are very specific areas that we are able to build structures.
Okay.
We've already worked with Wildlands Trust, and we've gotten permission for building some of the structures that we're proposing.
It seems a little contrary to the discussions, but that all being said, if the town should agree with this proposal, the town would continue to own the structure that's on the property. I guess, you know, I would like I'd love to go visit the site and see where you're proposing the structure. Again, I don't personally have I love the idea of the farming on the property. I know that, you know, Linda was very happy to know that that was a component of it. I guess I just am concerned that the people who voiced concerns and that we appeased by some of the conversations and agreements, if you will, of what could be done or what we anticipated could or couldn't be done on the property. I just want to make sure that we hold up our end of the bargain there. So that's what I'm just a little concerned with.
I can speak to that a little bit. First of all, everybody is welcome to come visit the farm. We're having February Farm Days. It's been published in the Clipper as of today. So Saturdays from 10 to noon, anybody is welcome to stop by, have a tour with me and Brett, see what we're doing, see what we've accomplished so far. We even met with Linda when she was still around, and we're very happy to have a conversation with her and her family members. Some of the abutters had problems with the clear cutting, which we kind of overcame that part of it by saying, no, we're not going to clear cut, we're going to develop silvopasture. So we're moving animals through this wooded area. We just took some of the junky stuff out. We let the animals browse. It helps feed them. It's better nutrition for them. It's enriching the soil. One of the people who was most vocal about the farm and building the farm there and how it was going to be done, her daughter volunteered for us up until it got really, really cold out, and she decided she didn't want to do it again until the springtime. So the abutters seem to be happy with what we're doing. People
Okay,
walk
good.
the property, they see what we're doing, they ask questions. We tell them, this is the town's property, so people are welcome to come through. We're hoping to create more of an educational component where as they walk through, over time as they walk through, they'll be able to learn about the livestock that's there, help out with it. The barn's going to be a central point to the property where we hope to do 4-H or 4-H type programs and engage the community in that way. And so far, the people who live next door seem to be pretty happy with it. So.
Other questions?
Yeah.
Mike?
I'm just trying to understand the use of CPC funds for this, and maybe you can help me with, you're an LLC. Are you a for-profit company?
We're a for-profit, yes.
Okay. And maybe this is a little inappropriate, but are profits such that, or expense or losses such that you cannot afford to build this barn?
This is town property. This is,
Yeah, so everything that,
I don't know.
yeah,
You
everything that's
built other
removable.
things on the property.
Yeah, everything that's removable and we can take with us, we have invested in. We're invested in this business. We're
Okay.
invested in the property itself.
Right.
Like I said, the vision is very much in alignment with what we are trying to do, bringing agriculture back to small farms and keeping it local, organic, regenerative, humanely raised animals.
No, I get it.
And, but if it were our property, we would definitely be finding all means to find a way to build a barn on the property, because you need a barn in order to have a farm. We can't take the barn with us when we go. So we're giving this back to the town by finding funding to build this and other capital projects. We have several capital projects on the property right now that are funded by federal funding, state funding.
Right.
So we're finding ways that we can build this back to agricultural use in a way that is not gonna, I mean, we're in year 3 of our company and having this lease on the property, so.
So bottom line then, at some point, if you decide that, we've had enough farming, right? Then you leave
A barn.
a barn and the assets such that another farmer can come in there
Exactly.
and use it, right? And so basically, we're increasing the value of the asset as the town's asset.
And
So
we're
it's making a more attractive place for another farmer to come in and continue if you get tired of farming, right?
I do plan to retire at some point in my life,
Yes.
yes.
So, I mean,
But yeah, I mean,
does
this
that answer your question then?
Yeah, and I'm trying to maybe focus this a little bit, and I know conservation's here, so, and maybe I want to hear from, is this an appropriate asset to add to this property? This is something that the town voted to put in here for agricultural use. It might not be foul play farm in the future. Is this something that we want to be left with? Just like we have a golf course here, we built holes. Do we want to be left with this? And
It's a great question. I did originally pass this by KP Law to see if it was an appropriate use of funds.
yeah,
And agriculture does fall under the open space umbrella of the CPA funds. And this is considered rehabilitation of what was previously a turkey farm. While the barn is on the property and Brett and Amanda are there, they are responsible for maintaining the barn. But if they are no longer there, then yes, the town would assume responsibility of the
Who
barn.
insures it?
I'm sorry?
Who pays the insurance on it?
While they're on the property, they pay the insurance.
and then
Yep.
and then we would be on,
Then we
unless we
would be.
put it out for bid and somebody else takes it on.
You think a barn would be something useful for a farmer, right?
Well, can you show the picture of the barn? I mean, we're not talking about a huge,
Well, it's a
structure.
nice looking barn. It's $92,000.
So-
It'll probably actually be more than that.
It's gonna be more than that. That's not
Yeah.
$92,000.
Yeah, actually, the person who built that barn said that he built it in 5 months for $80,000. So we know with, the increase in costs and prevailing wages and all that sort of thing, that it's gonna be more than that.
Oh, yeah.
We do have a fundraiser that we've initiated, that will hopefully make up the difference, so.
So the town decided years ago that rather than a subdivision, we wanted a farm. The town invested funds in purchasing the farm and laid out a plan to rehabilitate the farm. And having made that decision, I think it's important for the town to continue to support the vision of what we bought the property for in the first place, unless we're changing our minds midstream to say, all right, we don't want to rehabilitate the farm. My understanding is that as part of the way that the whole process worked is conservation spearheaded the effort, but conservation itself doesn't go out there regularly to feed the chickens, they need somebody to run the place and to redevelop the place. And that's what Brett and Amanda have done over the last 3 years, and I understand you've got a 5- and 10-year plan that ultimately achieves the town's vision, as Amanda, you just described, with all sorts of public amenities, groups, et cetera. And my understanding is a barn is central to getting to that next step. In other words, you brought it essentially as far as you can without permanent structures. I completely appreciate, Mike, you made a good point about who's responsible and all that. Very important to know, because if we build it, we gotta maintain it. But I do think that it's important for the town, given that this is town land, given that this is ultimately a town asset, albeit being run by a private entity, for now, it's gonna be in the town forever, hopefully, and you're the group that just happens to be redeveloping it. At this point, you've identified a need to get to the next step, and this is our chance to say, all right, yes, we do want to see this through, or no, we're okay with it being something less than what we originally envisioned. I think that's really the question.
But you're suggesting that there was a plan
Yeah.
to redevelop, and the plan included permanent structures?
Sure, yeah.
Oh, I have not seen that plan, because I remember at the.
I don't mean a blueprint, but a vision.
But when it was discussed at.
Oh, yeah.
During the time that we were acquiring this property, it was clearly made, I remember conversations where structures were not going to be permanent.
So, a couple of things. With the tree clearing that we talked about with the neighbors, there was a discussion at that point, what is this going to look like? We knew we wanted it in agriculture. There are agriculturally significant soils. So a conscious effort was, a decision was made by the working group to not clear cut. There was already 3 acres that had been cleared, but there were 7 additional acres that was going to be subject to the license. And we made a conscious decision not to clear cut it because we wanted the farmer to make that decision. When the RFP was out, we wanted farmers to come, and we had site visits to look at the property, figure out what their vision was. And it could have been anything. There was somebody that came to one of the visits that was going to do flowers, and most likely that might not have needed a barn. They would have needed the high tunnels, I'm sure, but. So we really left it up to the vision of the farmer to decide what would work best for their plan.
So I see that it's 9:30. We've made good progress over the last 3 hours. I don't want to exhaust anyone. Do we have further questions on this particular article?
I guess it's more of a comment. I just would prefer that this had been through conservation, because it could be, foul play this year. I see it like the clubhouse at the golf course, or building the holes. This is now town. You know, it's foul play, we'll use it for now, but it's now a town piece. We will be responsible.
We'll have to maintain it, we'll have
be
to.
responsible for
be
it.
part of the facilities plan, and,
And if it was
yeah.
a crown jewel of the farm, it would be an asset to the next RFP. If it was, but I don't know. I mean, is this something the town wants, like the Rainey, you want as part of you? Because you're sinking $100,000 into this farm too. So it's you know, it's an investment. So,
It
you
is.
know, and so that, I see this as proposed by the LLC, but
Well, it's proposed by the LLC at the request of Conservation. Conservation didn't bring it forward itself.
Conservation?
It's proposed by the LLC because they're the ones with the immediate need for it. Because, as I said, if a different farmer had bid on the property and was the subject of the license, they might not have needed a barn. So that's why we made the decision to have it sponsored by the LLC.
We do have an agricultural commission.
Yes.
Right. I mean, can they opine on this in terms of, I mean, the question is this
to the
what
town want it.
the town wanted? I mean, is this a good asset that, say, the contract, basically, you retire or you moved on, or the contract finishes and then we go out and bid it to another farmer, right?
Yep.
Will the farmer would it be a good use of, good asset to, I mean,
Yeah.
that would be the question, right?
That's what I'm
investment,
asking,
yeah?
yeah.
So who has, can the agricultural commission opine on this and say,
Sure.
yeah, we like it, or, well, actually, no, we don't know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what their schedule is. I think they meet on Thursdays, but I don't know how often.
Right.
If we can get on an agenda. between.
I don't know, yeah, I'm the liaison, they don't meet
Oh.
a lot.
Oh, they don't need that.
So,
I think that's.
They met, apparently, they met January the 20th, there's an agenda.
Well, and maybe, you know, if we're gonna open this up to other people advising us, I mean, what is the maintenance cost moving forward? And this will have to be added to our list of facilities. Maybe our facilities director needs to weigh in. There's costs involved with maintaining everything.
So there's really not much to maintain with this barn. It's gonna be a timber frame structure, more durable, less expensive to build because it is timber frame, no electricity, no water. We're gonna muck it out if the sheep are living in there during the winter time. If there are chickens in there. Anybody who comes onto the property afterwards, whether they're a flower farmer, and we are gonna be working with a flower farmer this year too, who's gonna be coming and using some of the fields. You know, they're gonna need a place to store equipment. Somebody else might have chickens, somebody else might not have chickens. They might just have, you know, need a place to keep their broad forks and their, you know, the equipment they use to plant the fields. So it's, you know, it's a useful structure. It's not, and it's only 900 square feet. It's not huge.
It's a barn,
It's a
every
barn.
farm needs a barn, whether
Right.
you're growing something, you need a barn.
It's gonna be decades before this needs any kind of maintenance, and the insurance that we carry, if there's anything that damages the barn, it's gonna be covered, so.
Right, and you're in charge of, well, you have the lease, right, is
Yeah.
maintaining that barn, so your cost, and then basically the risk is, if you abandon the lease, then while we're going out for an RFP, 4 or 5 months, a year, we could be exposed to risk of maintaining this barn until we get another farmer. And that's the objective of this land, to be farmed, right?
Yep.
So there may be a gap, and then during that gap, yeah, we may be accountable for maintaining that barn, but
Do
I
you
think
know
that's a
that
pretty good
that's
risk.
accurate, Fernando, that
What?
the lease that would require them to maintain the barn
That-
during the
that's-
time?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
I confirmed that with
Okay.
KP Law. Yeah, it states that, in the license, that, the licensee shall be responsible for maintenance of all improvements constructed or installed after the date of this license.
I don't, I guess I'm not understanding what everybody's objections are, because we made a decision to use this as agricultural land.
Right.
And so now we've gone out and we've found farmers that are farming the land. And we chose farmers that were going to do what they're doing, including having livestock. That's what we chose. So now, here we are, they've got the livestock, they need a place to put them. A barn. So I don't understand what the objections are, because we're the ones that have made the decisions to get us to this point.
I'm just a little concerned that we're gonna be stuck with a barn in like 5,
You're not
10 years.
stuck with the barn, you're lucky to have the barn.
No, I mean, like,
Right, let's go to
No,
the,
I mean,
I think we've discussed
I
it.
mean, if say if foul play moves on,
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're stuck with the barn, we gotta find new farmers.
yeah,
well, we're gonna have to
We
find
might-
new
we
farmers
might have a-
anyhow.
Okay, it might be a couple of years before we find another farmer. but
The
I-
five of us will go out and paint it if need be, okay?
All right. I think we've discussed this enough. It's
So,
9:40.
yeah,
Let's-
before you have a motion, I will disclose, I am a very satisfied farm customer with eggs and chickens and.
I don't know where
also
you
very-
find the eggs to buy, but we'll have
They're
that
they're
conversation
delicious,
afterward.
they're delicious. It's a great facility. All right, may I have a motion?
Here, can I borrow this?
yeah.
Yeah. I move that the Select Board supports and recommends the approval of March 14th, 2026 Annual Town Meeting Article 29, De Lorenzo Barn Construction as presented.
Second.
Motion second, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All is in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We all aye on that one? Okay.
Yeah, I'll give them the barn.
Right, thank
I'm
you.
struggling with the,
Yeah.
but,
All right, that's 5-0.
I'll let the community decide whether they
Alright.
want a barn.
yes.
Great. Do we have it in us to continue the last three? And I know Bob
No.
Hayes is here for the
Oh,
cemetery.
Let's do the cemetery.
Do we have anybody here for the last three CPCs, Bay Farm, Poly Pond, and Shipyard?
Brian, you have some folks here for the citizens petition.
Yes,
article?
Oh, the citizens petition, okay.
Yeah, I don't think we have any direct components for any of the last three CPC articles.
Joanne was going to speak to possibly the last one. Which is,
Shipyard?
Shipyard Beach Park.
Okay.
Do we vote on the field?
Why don't we just quickly do Shipyard,
Definitely.
and then we'll do the,
I don't know why I can't remember.
you're all here for the citizens petition in the back? Okay, we'll do the citizens petition then.
Sorry, Bob.
Bob,
So we're going to do the
let's do Article 32,
Okay.
Shipyard Beach.
Shipyard Beach Park, this is a request for $15,000. There was a tree removed recently due to degradation, and there was some work done that was very well received by the public, and we basically had a request to do more of that. So a picnic table was installed, it's been very much well enjoyed. Because of changes in the area, it's unclear where the delineation is between the public grassy area next to the parking lot and the private property behind it, so part of this project would be to treat that with some landscaping to make that clearer for the public.
Okay.
Right, the town knows where the line is, it's just visually, it's hard
Really
to,
hard.
yeah, right.
I'm sorry, so
what
this,
was installed?
this is,
Previously, an ADA accessible picnic table was
Picnic
installed.
table, okay,
yeah.
thank you.
but the fence is going to go on the far side of the parking lot, between that and the house that's there?
Yes, yes,
Oh.
to demarc the actual public land on the grassy area.
Oh,
Because most of that grass area is town land,
really?
all the way up to the wall, retaining wall, which is right next to the deck, I think.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right, so basically,
Wow.
the end of the house is
Yeah.
the end of the private property, the rest of it is the town's.
Really?
Yeah.
I never
See,
knew that.
that's
There you
hence the
go.
article.
That sounds like a good article.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And so the 15,000 is for what, the demarcation?
Yeah, and some landscaping, more picnic tables.
I thought oh my God, I'm blanking on the name of the organization. Well, one of them wanted like a pergola, not a
There
pergola,
was
or something.
discussion
or-
about a shelter, and.
Like a
and it was
picnic shelter or
extensive
something, yeah.
About some, and
Is that
when-
not part of it
when
now?
you look at the aesthetic of
Okay.
the actual sitting there in the parking lot or on the grassy area, the idea of having a constructed
Yeah.
building with an awning, it really just didn't seem appropriate
No.
for
Okay.
the site. It's a small site.
Right.
and it
So
would-
it's no
It
structures.
would mar the landscape, so no, we're
Okay.
gonna keep it all on the ground.
All right.
Okay.
Go home.
Any questions?
Sounds great.
No.
All right, may I have a motion? Oh, yeah, sorry.
Sorry, keep on. I move that the Select Board supports and recommends the approval of March 14th, 2026 Annual Town Meeting Article Number 32, Shipyard Beach Park, as presented.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
abstentions, the motion carries 5-0. Next, we're going to the citizens petition. So this is number 21, citizen petition, proposed speed limit reduction on Tremont Street. If you can introduce yourself for our record. And Mr. Town Manager, I believe our role here is, wouldn't, town meeting's role, I think, is advisory on this? Is that right?
Yeah, I'll let him go first.
Okay.
Good evening, Stan Wheatley, 1548 Tremont Street. Your question is actually very apt because I would at least like to take 1 minute to make the pitch that we don't need to do this at town meeting. This board, people sitting at that table, have the ability to do this on your own. And it was always my hope that we would do it through the select board and not have to go through the town meeting process. But that I don't seem to be getting much traction with that. So if that's still the case, then yes, we'd go to town meeting. And I haven't really analyzed the situation about how binding a yes vote at town meeting would be on the board. I would assume that the board would respect that, but I haven't really looked at the law into that. The reasons for this petition, or if you want to treat it as a board vote, is simply that the road there is very, very undersized for the way that it's being used now. It's one of the major thoroughfares in town, but it was laid out by Native Americans on foot. It's been widened slightly over the years, but it's nowhere near big enough. The layout, the subdivision rules and regulations don't strictly apply to this road, but it's a useful barometer that under the subdivision rules and regulations, this would be considered a primary street, but what's actually on the ground now barely qualifies as a secondary street.
under the rules and regulations. And there are, about half of this neighborhood is commercially zoned, business district. And there's constant traffic turning in and out of the businesses, which creates hazards if people are driving too fast. There's at least one house in the neighborhood that has school-aged children. There's a very active wildlife corridor there. We see deer, fox, coyote, turkey every day. We've had a couple of deer killed within about this time last year. A couple of deer were killed. We've got a deer right now, a beautiful 10-point buck that's been hit. I don't know that it happened on Tremont Street. It could have been on 3A, but we have an injured deer right now. So, you know, if people are hitting the deer, it makes you wonder, you know, whether humans are at risk there too. And then the other thing that's sort of a backdrop to this, although it's not happening this winter apparently, is the history over the last 3 years of the heavy truck traffic for the beach restoration projects and the seawall projects. The beach restoration project alone has generated 10,000 round trips, which would be 20,000 passes on the street.
Can I interrupt just for a second?
Yeah.
What segment of Tremont are you talking about?
This is from, if you know where Cox Corner is.
Sure.
It's just from Cox Corner to the Duxbury Marshfield town line.
Is Carswell Street, right?
No, it's Tremont. It
In
says
Duxbury,
Tremont.
it's called Tremont Street.
But it's also Route 3A, is that correct?
Yeah,
It's-
that's my question.
It's
a
numbered
state road.
139.
We have no
No, it's
jurisdiction
not
on state
3A.
roads.
It's not 3A.
I'm getting confused.
It's Route 139.
It's 139, right?
Right, but that is not a state highway.
No.
Well, that's.
Go ahead, Mike.
That's my question for Rainey. So this is that road, Tremont, or is this Carswell?
It's Tremont and
Tremont.
Duxbury.
So who maintains it? Who has the ability to make signs and change speed limits? Is that the town? Let's just start with the baseline.
Well, I'm going to back up a little bit to Brian's earlier inquiry. I spoke to council about this, and Mr. Wheatley's right. Town meeting is not the forum for this, and my recommendation is that you IP this, because the article will only become a sense of the meeting article in terms of what they may or may not want to do. But this should go through highway safety first and then come to you with their recommendation.
But I thought he already went to highway
He
safety.
already went to highway safety.
Yes, I could.
They told him apparently, and you can, that the select board wasn't interested in doing one-offs and speed limits anymore. So that's why he came back to us.
That's what we heard.
That's exactly what happened. I went to HSAC, and they, Mr. Glennon's suggestion, and they told me that it was their understanding that they had been told that they were not supposed to recommend any more of these 25-mile-an-hour speed limits.
Who were they told that by?
I do not know the answer to that.
We need to know that answer first, I think.
But it was,
Us.
it sounds to me like something's getting lost in the translation, because apparently the
Yeah,
select
that's-
board is still open.
I don't want to tie up Mr. Wheatley with any
Yeah,
more
I would
going back
recommend
and
you IP
forth.
it. I'd recommend you IP it.
Your record-
It's going to be non-binding
Um,
anyway.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Go ahead.
What is the speed limit on Carswell Street as soon as it enters Marshfield?
That's 35 miles an hour on Carousel.
35.
Yeah,
So it'll go from 35 to 25 at the town line?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, part of the problem is that people, it's not so much the outbound traffic to Marshfield, it's the inbound traffic from Marshfield. They come around that turn where it's 35 miles an hour legally, but they're really doing 45 miles an hour.
Right.
And then they get to our section, which is 30 miles an hour, and they're just not slowing down.
And it's a really dangerous intersection at Carswell too.
And also at the end of the street, Cox Corner is a very dangerous intersection. There are serious accidents
That's what I
there all
mean.
the time.
That's what I mean, and I don't know where we are. This is probably for another day, and we are here. There's probably other improvements that could be made there, and I know we've been on the tips list for that intersection for years, so.
That is true. The state does have a vision of putting a traffic light
Yeah.
there, but there's no timeline for
And
that.
that would change the way people drive.
Yeah.
Because they would see a light ahead.
There's
Right now,
there's
it's
no
just a-
timeline for that, though.
Street.
I still am unclear as to exactly what street. It says the subject roadway is part of Tremont Street, which approaching from the south diverges right from 3A at the intersection with 139 and continues approximately 900 feet.
Sure.
Is
Yeah,
it
that-
not Route, if
Correct.
it's
No
Tremont Street,
plan
it's
was
3A.
submitted with it either, so it's hard to tell.
I didn't know either. It turns into Enterprise on the other side of Cox
What?
Corner, and Tremont goes.
Yeah, Tremont Street, if you stay on 3A, becomes Enterprise Street.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically,
But that's
there's a
3A,
garage
it's a
on the
state
left-hand
road.
side, and
That Enterprise.
there's Duxbury Clipper on the right-hand side, and you turn left.
Yep.
And that's Carswell Street, according to
Well, no, it's
It's Carswell Street
in
here.
Duxbury, in the town of Duxbury, it's still called Tremont Street.
But are we all talking about the same segment of road, regardless of what we're calling it?
Okay, okay, so that's really interesting. So it becomes
where,
Tremont Street and then
Viola
becomes
says
Carswell
Cafe
Drive when it
Road?
gets into Marshfield.
Yes.
It's a little lump
It's
between
behind,
Cox
it's
Corner.
So
Right.
actually, I'm wrong.
behind
You're
it, so you
talking
can
about
get
the
to
road that's
Viola's either this way.
got
Yeah, yeah.
Dunkin's and Reds on the left.
Audio visual
This is
aid.
Tremont.
Well, Duncan's is long gone, but yes, Red's is on the left.
This is
There's a
Enterprise.
liquor store on the right.
Let me ask this.
Not a state road.
Go to.
It's 139.
Who is
Oh, it
the,
is Tremont Street if you blow it up.
who is the liaison to highway safety?
Me.
Here, can I task you to
Yes.
reach out to highway safety and see what the issue was
Yep.
with this particular thing? I don't see a problem with entertaining this as a select board.
Yep.
I just need to hear a little bit more
Right.
about the details.
Okay.
But I think that's why we sent it to highway safety to begin with, so
Yes.
they could go through all that and make a recommendation for us.
Yes.
So, and to your point, Mike, I don't want Mr. Whately to continue to go back and forth. You've approached us in good faith on multiple occasions, and I think you're entitled to get an answer, at least one way or the other. And Mike, if, to the extent you can help make that happen, I'd be very appreciative. I'm happy to add this to an agenda for us to evaluate the merits of the request, and if we have the jurisdiction as a board to make any changes in this particular stretch of road. And if we can, and if it makes sense,
You will.
and it's not an enforcement issue or lack of enforcement, and traffic, changing the speed limit will make a difference, as opposed to just putting a police car there more often, I'm certainly open to it.
Okay.
Could
I-
we request that Mike make sure that the Traffic Safety Committee speaks to Mr. Wheatley and understands exactly, because I think we all need a visual as to exactly where this is being requested to
Sure.
have the.
I've been to HSAC many times with this, and they've been actually very helpful in some ways. They helped me with DPW. Originally, the speed limit sign was in a silly place, and they moved the speed limit sign. There was a serious defect in the road.
Yeah.
And Ms. Garzi took care of that for us. And very recently, after I filed the petition, we got a radar sign. And I credit HSAC for helping me with all of those things. So they're very familiar with this situation. But in fairness to them also, there was this objection that they thought they weren't allowed to make these recommendations anymore. But Chairman Brogdon did have a substantive objection, and he and I just disagree on this. The statute that gives you the power to do this applies either to business districts or thickly settled districts. And for business districts, there's no issue, and half of this is a business district. For thickly settled districts, there is a quarter-mile requirement, and the distance, Mr. Brogdon's point is that the distance from Cox Corner to the town line is less than a quarter of a mile, and he's right about that. But I think he's misreading the statute. I don't think there's anything in the statute that says that the thickly settled district has to be entirely within one town. I think a thickly settled district can straddle a town line. And if you look at the development without regard to the town line, we do meet the quarter-mile rule.
I think,
Okay.
that, Mike, your job to get this resolved one way or the other.
Sounds like, yeah, I'll happily help.
Right. Let's IP this and
Well,
let's deal it
can we IP it, or doesn't the proponent have to IP it?
What does that even mean?
indefinitely postponed.
To not proceed with it?
He would have to make the motion to town meeting floor.
why don't we try to resolve it in the next meeting?
Yeah.
And then we can have a resolution at the time that
Right.
we IP it.
Yeah, I mean, if the board was willing to do this on their own, as I believe they can and should, then absolutely, obviously, there'd be no reason to go forward with the town meeting.
All right, so we'll take no action on it now. I don't want to recommend IP at this point, because I don't know where it's going to go.
Right.
Yeah.
But I
not
want to
really-
give you your opportunity. So why don't we table this, hear from Highway Safety, and see if we can come to a resolution
Okay.
to everybody's satisfaction.
Okay.
Public safety is paramount, we all care about it. All right, let's do that, because Mr. Hayes has been very patiently waiting, and it's almost 10. I want to give him the opportunity before we go. Are you going to be speaking to the citizens petition? Can you do it really quickly?
Yes.
Okay.
One sentence. Sigrid Wheatley, 1548 Tremont Street. The one point I wanted to make was, as it relates to the bridge project, if and when Duxbury moves forward with that, and there's no access to the beach
Yep.
across the bridge, every single person who has a beach sticker in Duxbury will pass through this roadway.
Correct.
So that needs to be a consideration in terms of the public safety aspect of it, which, in my opinion, is first and foremost in terms of priorities.
Thank you for that important point, Ms.
All right?
Whately.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you all for that, and thanks for everybody's patience. Let's close with Article 17, Proposed Cemetery Expansion. Mr. Hayes.
Was that,
Yeah, no, but Amy wasn't,
oh,
Amy missed it.
Amy, yes.
Yeah.
I was here a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
And I had with me some real expertise and some pictures and everything else, which I don't have tonight.
And I learned what that thing in the wall
You
is
did,
called.
yes, you
Which
did.
I've forgotten.
Columbarium.
Columbarium,
Marion, thank you.
yes, yes. So I'd be happy to do what you want me to do. And in particular, I gave Amy some stuff before the meeting.
Amy Diaz.
Does anyone have
Amy, do you want me to
questions?
What number is it?
Nope,
say a few words about what it is?
Sure.
Oh, okay. Bob Hayes from Powder Point Avenue. This is in connection with the development of a small portion of Mayflower Cemetery. Unlike what the Clipper said, it is not an acquisition of land. It is simply to landscape for graves, a small portion of the existing cemetery. The town is required to provide burial spaces. The only burial spaces for sale in town are in Mayflower. Mayflower is running out of space and has been adjusting the sale of space because we're running out of space. The trustees started actually in 2017 to look into this. We got a master plan in 2018, which provided for improvements. I won't go into a delay there, but in 2022, the trustees proposed development of additional burial space and made it, under the 5-year plan, a capital project for fiscal year 2027. That's this year. In 2024, we hired a landscape architect. We did go through an RFP type stuff, although it wasn't necessary because it's exempted, but we did. We proposed in the design process 3 things that we thought needed to be done with the project. One, we wanted to make it, and I think it's a requirement of us, to make it aesthetically harmonizing with the Mayflower Cemetery, which we think is a huge asset to the town, historic cemetery. We wanted to continue that look.
Which
And-
means regrading.
Oh, no. Forgetting regrading, it means, well, I'm taking too much time already. The newest thing around the area is to
and because it's needed in several communities, is to lay out cemeteries in pre-dug, pre-vaulted, straight lines. So when you come in to buy a cemetery plot, you get the next one unused. And it's in a straight line. You're typically only permitted to buy two, one for you and one for a spouse, no families or anything else. And each one has the ability, each lot, you can buy one, has the ability to put a headstone, which results in a long line of a nightmare, but has nothing to do with the aesthetics of Mayflower Cemetery. We didn't want that.
Right.
So we hired an architect. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, this is almost the last spot in the long stretch along Tremont Street of Mayflower Cemetery. When this is done, and when it's full, we can talk about when I think it's going to be full, but when it's full, the town is going to have to make a huge decision about where the next cemetery is going. So, and that's going to be a very big decision, very expensive, I believe, unless we put all the bodies in space with, who knows what's going to happen. But, so the second criteria is that we have a maximum practical number of graves.
I'm going to make a diamond out of Fernando.
Yeah. Hey, I tried. The third thing is, and this is the most important, I think, Amy, to you, is it had to fit into the cemetery trustees' budget because we're financing it.
Okay.
Has nothing to do with the tax rate. Okay. So anyway, and it's in excess of 2 million.
Order.
So,
Okay, so is it?
oh, look, a
there it
picture,
is,
there's a picture.
Worth 1,000 words. So the
Oh,
area,
Nancy.
Do you have any specific questions?
yes, the area that's being proposed is the area that's already been somewhat cleared.
Yes,
Correct.
yes,
Okay.
that's it,
That was really my only question.
Maybe this is the picture right here.
Okay,
that's
there
it.
it is. Yep,
This is the money shot, this picture.
yep, that's what
The
you.
next one, now the next one. You want to look at,
There's a columbarium.
yeah,
There it is, yeah.
All right,
yeah.
ready for that.
I can't promise you the columbarium.
It looks lovely.
Yes, it was excellent.
But there's
work.
also a walking trail to here, the senior center.
Absolutely,
Beautiful tie-in.
we,
I can already walk to this.
I think we need a vote.
yeah, but this is not across the lawn. This is on a trail,
Oh, all right.
All right.
and
I
not with
just walk
dogs, though.
across the lawn.
I
No
may
dog.
be losing my members,
All
Mr.
right,
Hayes,
I'm
so
good, Thank you.
I think it's time for a vote.
Yes.
very well done.
Thank you.
Beautiful. And it's a much-needed, I was going to say amenity, but that's not the right word. A much-needed space for the town.
Unfortunately.
And, no, clearly a lot of thought and effort and planning went into this. And my thanks to Bob and the trustees for all your hard work on this. And
Yeah.
we don't think about it till we need it.
That's
So,
right.
so-
I'm a good example of that. I didn't think about it till I needed it.
May I have a motion?
Yeah.
Article 17.
Yeah, I move that the Select Board supports and recommends the approval of March 14, 2026 Annual Town Meeting Article 17 Proposed Cemetery Expansion as presented.
Motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, the motion carries 5-0.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you very much,
attention.
Mr. Hayes, and thank you for your patience tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes.
Thank you.
And your
Rainey, is there anything you need to share tonight, or can we wait until next week? Can we make one committee appointment, please? Because I think they're meeting next week.
Yes, I move that Select Board appoints Michael McHugh to the.
Board of Health
Where's, oh yeah, Board of Health, for term.
is an alternate.
As an alternate, for a term expiring, 30th of June, 2028.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries.
Right.
5-0. Welcome, Mr. McHugh.
Yes, the Design Review Board and the Economic Advisory Committee and the Nuclear Advisory have one vacant seat. The Duxbury Bay Management Commission has 3 vacant seats, as well as the Municipal Commission on Disabilities and the Taxation Aid Committee. If anyone is interested in volunteering on a board or committee, you're encouraged to fill out a talent bank form, which can be found on the town's websites under the Forms and Documents tab.
Do we have announcements?
Yes, we do. Nomination papers for annual town election. The following offices will be on the ballot for the March 28th, 2026 annual town election. 2 select board members for a term of 3 years, 1 board of assessor member for a term of 3 years, 2 school committee members for a term of 3 years, 1 planning board member for a term of 5 years, 1 planning board member for an expired term of 2 years, 2 board of library trustee members for a term of 3 years, 1 Duxbury Housing Authority member for a term of 5 years. Nomination papers available in town clerk's office. A candidate must obtain 50 signatures of registered voters to appear on the ballot. The nomination papers are due back to town clerk by Friday, February 6, 2026 at 5 p.m. for signature
That's this
certification.
Friday.
Election workers. Anyone interested in becoming election workers should contact the town clerk's office for an application information packet. And finally, but not least, the next select board meeting is scheduled for Monday, February 9th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. in the Muriel Room.
Well done. May I have one more motion, please?
Yeah, motion.
I need one more, please, excuse me.
What?
Can you please vote to close the annual town meeting warrant?
Are we done with that? I thought you wanted us to keep it open until we were done on,
Go ahead, we have so many others to do, it's fine, I'm just gonna put in before the town meeting, don't worry, you'll see. I
okay.
don't need all your votes, it's okay.
So there's a request for a motion to close the annual town meeting warrant.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion on the motion. Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries 5-0. We have one more motion, please.
Oh, I moved to terminate this meeting.
Adjourn?
Terminated.
So terminated.
I didn't hear a second. Motion, thank you. Motion and second, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed,
Aye.
abstentions, motion carries 5-0. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.